but I was worried about the moving parts and using it every day, and whether or not it would handle just constant abuse. But the fact that it folds up smaller and is smaller is kind of a nice benefit. The Phantom series is definitely much bigger.
Yeah.
But they have some nice features on both ends. But the Inspire, that's kind of the last level of what I call pro and prosumer before you jump into big dollar stuff.
Yeah.
That would fly your big camera, but I still can't. I still can't fathom, putting a $10,000 or $20,000 camera up in the air on a $20,000 or $25,000 drone. So all of a sudden you got $40,000 or $50,000 in the air, and then you need two people to fly it. I'm like, oh boy, that's a little bit out of my out of my range.
Yeah, yeah. I thought about doing it with my son, and then one of us flies and one of us operates the camera. And but you're really looking at a big time investment there, and
That's right. Yeah,
really
and you
having
have to have a second person. Once you take that next step, you can't fly and film and do everything yourself. You got to have a second person. And right now budgets, even though the industry is good, budgets, at least in my world, aren't there.
No, I'm gonna use it just with my workshops, and it'll be my cameraman to
Yeah,
shoot
nice.
me, when I teach workshops and stuff. So I figure
That's
it's a
nice.
good. I can't believe how steady it is, like a tripod.
It's right.
When
Yeah.
there's little wind. You know, I
Well, I've taken them up in the air when my judgment says it wasn't safe and it's too much air, too
yeah.
much wind blowing, and it makes me nervous. But I'm surprised how well they do. I think they would do better, a little bit heavier, like the Inspire maybe version. But I've taken it up there when the wind velocities. I shouldn't have been up there. That's for sure. And it did pretty good. Only one time I had to call it quits, and that was in the Bay Area. It just was too intense, and I had to. It was a job for Toyota, and I had to just call it off. It's too much. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but not for the most part. It handles real well in the wind. Very steady.
So do you find that you get that there's, I mean, nowadays with so many people with them and whatnot, I mean, still, I don't know how many people are 107 pilots. Yeah.
Probably not. I'll bet you less than half are flying with the license, and half probably not flying with the license. I
Yeah. So do you find a lot of work at this point, or?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's definitely an area that has a lot of work right now. Budgets aren't big for. I mean, I just call myself a small guy. I mean, I've been around for almost 27 years, but it's definitely an area where the most new work is right now and the least tapped in market right now. But everybody, kind of like when digital cameras came out, we've been like digital in at least 15 years now, I guess, maybe more. When digital cameras came out and everyone jumped into digital cameras, the market became so saturated, supposedly, we went from, maybe 12 real commercial studios in Northern California. I'm comparing that from San Francisco this way, to what now looks like, maybe 3,500, which aren't real, but they look real online. And the same is with the drone. A lot of people have drones. Doesn't mean they know how to use them, and doesn't mean they're legal, and most certainly doesn't mean that they know how to do the post-production, especially on the video side.
Yeah.
Photos definitely much easier. As soon as you're doing the video, all of a sudden that throws in a whole nother level of post-production and computer needs. But so I like this beforehand thing. I may shoot you all my glory before we get there.
Well, I don't want to dominate this conversation, but you know, I one of the most disheartening things is all the places you can't go and shoot,
That's right.
and just to go out and get some nice photography. And I don't want to disturb people, and have them get mad at me and whatnot. But still, it's a little bit limiting, I guess.
Well, there's hoops to jump through that take the limits away for the most part. It's just a little bit of a hassle, and it's something you have to do. It's just unavoidable. But you could imagine, originally I thought, boy, people are going to be worrying about peeping toms and, whatever with these drones flying overhead. But I think that's probably the least of the government's worries, when these drones can fly with, 2.5, 3.5 pounds and more as a load. They can carry that and still perform perfectly. To me, that's the concern. Is doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that someone could build something that could be substantially dangerous when your drone can carry 2-3 pounds or more. That to me is the real concern.
Sure, interfering with other aircraft and
Well, that's
operations.
even less of a concern. I'm thinking about, pipe bombs and all sorts of things,
Oh, yeah.
that can be controlled also secondary by cell phones. And, my drone can pull up 3.5 pounds of extra weight without any problem. And, you can build a lot in 3.5 pounds if someone had bad ideas,
I,
So
I
I worry
guess
about those
legislation
kind
is
of things.
coming down. Legislation is coming down the pipe. It'll become more restrictive, and
Right.
they'll have ID capabilities of the drones and things like that. Yeah.
Well, it's still worth doing. We just have to jump through the hoops and follow the regulations that are out there as much as possible. I think that's key. But it is sure, even just not for business, it sure is a whole lot of fun. But it's an awful expensive toy to just play around with and hope that you don't crash. Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
say hi, Bill? We finally
Hello,
meet.
hello.
Thanks for joining us early.
Oh, it's I'm one of those early birds. Early solves problems and late causes them. So I show up to jobs a couple hours early so I can drink my coffee and figure out the needs.
Yeah, no, good strategy for sure.
That just means any assistants or anyone working with me hates it.
Well, welcome, welcome.
Boy, where are you at? You look like you're in Tahoe or something.
Yeah, that'd be good. No, I live in Lake of the Pines,
Ah,
north
okay.
of Auburn.
Okay.
So this
I
is a
was
picture
looking at
from last fall. It is starting to look almost exactly like that,
Wow.
though.
Yeah,
So
that's
leaves
nice.
are starting to finally turn up here.
All right, that's Auburn. Is that a photo you took by your house or something?
Yeah, that's off our back deck, actually.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That's your backyard.
yeah.
I can honestly say I hate you. That looks wonderful.
Life is good up here.
I
Yeah.
guess.
And Rick doesn't really live out in
Oh,
that
yeah.
valley,
In the
but
mesa, yeah.
yeah.
But today it's like pitch black out there. It's like it's
Yeah.
depressing. It's so dark already.
I
It
know.
just feels like we're up in Alaska and it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Boy, and where are you at? Kathy, you're in some sort of cave or something.
Yeah, well, I just got some new furniture, so my office behind me is a freaking mess.
Okay,
I
so you're
just
hiding
got to share.
it. And I don't know if you can hear me, Larry. Your audio is turned off.
Yeah, he's muted, but he can come back on.
Oh, okay. He wants to be muted. Okay, that's fine.
Well, I've trained them well.
Okay.
I didn't want to
Yeah, that's good.
interrupt there. So
No, you're doing good. I like where you're at too. It looks like you're up at some sort of beautiful mountain
actually,
lake or
that's
something.
Silver Lake in the June Lake Loop.
Oh, that's
Actually, I took that photo in 2003. I just was going through some of my old photos, and actually one of the fellows on here told me how to do a virtual background. I thought, gee, I'm going to try this. Then
Yeah,
you
that's
can
what.
add photos to it. So
Yeah,
as
that's
the
right.
season changes, we can be in date here.
Yeah, that's right. You're slightly hologramish though.
Well, that's the problem with these backgrounds. I can't put one on because I've got curly hair. And
Well, you could if you do. You see mine on the side where the green is.
right,
That wall in my home office is a green screen.
I
If
could
you
do
were to
that.
turn and do it towards that, it would be almost perfect. Actually, it's pretty good technology.
That's good to know. I have a green screen. I'll have to try
You
that.
could put it behind you, and you'd be surprised how good it is.
All right, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
So
that's
Bill,
right.
is it, I've always heard that term, the green screen. It's literally just a green, any shade of green behind you on like as a backdrop.
Green or blue, but green because they call it a green screen. It works the best with this software. But you can even see on my it'd be my left shoulder. Maybe you're seeing it on the right side. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because of my black shirt, it's a little fuzzy around there. If you made it perfect and you wore the right clothes, it's pretty darn good. That definition between my wall and above that Westcott softbox is flawless. It nails it. So if you wore the right clothes and you had the right green screen, they don't cost much. You can buy a fabric one and stretch it behind you for, probably $50 or something, and it would be perfect. So
what's the science underneath that? Why green? Why not red or yellow or blue?
well, they do have blue. And sometimes the industry uses blue. It's less interfering with certain clothes, but green still is kind of the industry standard. But you can't be wearing green or shades of green, or it causes issues. So
Isn't that because of chroma keying, Bill?
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So what is
whether
it,
it's
Kathy?
photo
Yeah,
or
it's called
video.
chroma key.
Yes.
So in the film industry or video industry, the technology is that if they put up a green screen, their cameras are taught to see green as blind, and then they can superimpose a composite, another scene on top, or a person who's not wearing green. It's like when
That's
you see somebody who's in a horror movie or a science fiction movie, they're wearing a huge green suit with all kinds of monitors on them.
I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Yeah, you've seen that. Well,
Yep.
it's because the technology is that it's called chroma key, and that's what they see, and to use to change what's actually in the software. That's
So
that's why I
The
put it.
biggest deal with any of those screens is lighting the screen so that
That's
it's
right.
even.
Yep.
If the screen's evenly
Oh,
lit,
right.
then and the differential between you and the lit background
Yeah.
is great. You pop off really well. I mean, you notice. I mean, they use that technology. Every TV station uses it with their weather person.
Right.
That's right.
And you see that. So if the screen is lit well and evenly,
Yes.
is the big deal.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm glad you jumped in there, David, because that's 100% of the issue is the screen has to be evenly lit side to side, top to bottom, edge to edge. And when it's evenly lit and the subject, let's say if you go back to your portrait years of learning and the subject is clearly separated from the background and lit independently of the green screen that's perfectly lit and even, your software, both in Photoshop and in, let's say, your video for using Premiere, will do the green screen without all the fancy hocus pocus stuff really well, almost flawlessly with a little bit of tweaking. Yeah,
Also, Rachel,
Yeah.
up here at the media center, they have a huge room with a huge green screen. And we can, I don't know what the rental fee is, but they are, they welcome us to use it.
It'd be a fun workshop to do.
It would be, we'd have to.
What's
get
the media
Yeah.
center?
Nevada County Media, it's $40 an hour if you're a member, and if you are willing to film something and give them the rights to show it, then it's free.
Where is the media center?
It's on Whispering Pines,
I mean, what city? I
Grass
apologize.
Valley.
Grass
Grass
Valley.
Valley. So is it just called the media center?
It's Nevada. It used to be Nevada County Television, TV, and now it's called Nevada City Media.
Really?
I'm sorry, Nevada County Media.
Nice to know. Well, the reason I ask is the studio and partnership I used to be in years ago was called the Media Center here in Sacramento. It doesn't exist anymore. It kind of split up a few years back. It just caught my ear. But anyways, okay, that's nice to know.
Yeah,
And
come on,
If-
I'll give you a tour.
I would love to come up there and see it.
And you can see
If you-
Rachel's backyard too.
All right.
Anytime. You're welcome.
If you wanted to do try Rachel, the green screen, or I have green screen at my studio.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't have one. I've never tried it.
Yeah, I don't have a hard cyc. A hard cyc is with a background with a curved bottom and everything, but it's just a portable setup. You can always come up and fool around with it, try it. Maybe we can, if we ever want to do some green screen things for the camera club,
That'd be fun.
especially since the fiber is coming in this month.
Oh, that's right. He's gonna
Yeah.
laud his 5G.
You-
or-
yeah,
He's
my-
gonna
my-
be all over it.
My gigabit fiber will be all over it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
Well,
thinking
this-
next year's workshop, we could do a
Yeah.
green screen demo.
yeah,
right.
definitely. And we could all wear green screen masks.
Yeah.
And-
Oh, not next year. Don't say that. A year from now? No.
We can make our own horror movies.
That's true. We could put all kinds of strange vampire looks on our faces.
Oh.
That's funny.
Well, let's see. It's almost 6 o'clock. I got a minute here, but how about we get started? Oh, wait, my watch says 5:54.
I've got
Yeah,
6 minutes.
Yeah, we have 6 minutes. Forget it. I was looking
Okay.
at the wrong watch. I have to go change that one. Hey there, Marky.
Welcome, everybody, and myself.
How you doing, Mark?
Good. Hi, everybody. Hi, Bill.
Hey.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, I also do have a portable pop-up green screen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a like an 8x6. I use it for video, for interviews. And once you know how to light it, as Bill was saying, you get really good results.
Oh, you were listening, huh?
There's one other trick, which is you have to keep the green screen well beyond the subject. Otherwise, you get backwash from the light of the bounce from the green onto the subject, and you'll actually get a green perimeter around their head. And so the software sees that as transparent, and it gives you kind of a rough edge. You can do a couple of things: either move the subject away from the screen, or you can use a magenta light or magenta filters on 2 side lights, and you wash the sides of the subject. And the magenta counteracts the green and neutralizes it so the software doesn't see it. So you can do one of those 2 things.
And so I should introduce Bill besides David. Mark's our other drone person, right?
Yeah.
Video and also drone, yeah.
Yeah, video and drone. Mhm.
I think you have the same drone. Which drone do you have, Mark?
I have the
Platinum, right?
the Pro Platinum, right?
Yeah. Ellen, do you still have drone?
I do. So I have a little drone because I'm actually just learning to fly. When I took Jeff Litton's workshop, I actually went going and knowing nothing. And so right now, he recommended like a beginning drone, which I have. It's like $25 off of Amazon. So in case you break it or lose it, which I've already done both. Another one. Yeah, no, I was flying on it on you and it just kept going. And I don't know where it is. I lost it.
So you don't have a 107 license or any of that, Ellen?
I don't. No, not yet.
I thought you were doing real estate stuff with it or something. Or
I did real estate photography, and I meant to pick up a drone and do drone at some point, but it just didn't work out before I sold it off to Allison.
I mean, Allison has the one with the Hasselblad camera.
Yeah, no, she's got a sweet
Oh,
little
wow.
drone.
Yeah, it looks like I saw her videos. She had some nice footage.
David's in New York.
There's my name.
Yeah, she does some good work.
Nobody cares.
Hey, we got a 2 for 1 there.
Yeah, hey, Jerry. Hey, Carol.
Nice to see you
Bill.
guys.
Bill may get into this later, but Ellen, your experience is very common because the drawback of the really cheap ones, and it is a good idea to start with those, but the drawback is that they only have about 100-foot or 125-foot range,
Mhm.
and they don't have fail-safe in them like the good ones do. If the good ones get out of range, they automatically fly back to the takeoff point.
Yeah.
But the cheap ones just continue going, and they just keep going and going and going until the battery dies, and they're, at that point they're 2 miles away. So you gotta
Yeah,
kind of keep those close. The inexpensive ones, you have to keep them pretty close.
yeah.
I
So
think you and Ellen should go out together.
that would be good. Yeah, no, it'd be good because because I'm at the point where it's like It's like, so if you're learning to drive and you learn to drive a stick before an automatic, that's kind of the idea, so that
Yep.
when you do get one that's automatic and that's really good, and if something goes wrong, then you'll have those those skills in place to fly without the automatic support.
So
Absolutely.
Ellen, Mark and I were talking about getting together after, sometime and just having some fun and learning some things together. If you want to join us,
Yeah,
and
that would be
whoever else.
cool.
It's like Peter Pan and Wendy. You could be Wendy.
Yeah.
Go fly.
Well, the fancy ones aren't flawless. They can still have challenges. I was flying the first Phantom Pro that came out some years back now, and I was flying out at Aerojet and doing a job for them, and the drone everything died instantly. Everything died. The screen died. The drone died. The battery died, just out of the blue, and just dropped out of the sky and broke in
Wow.
pieces. And it was so, I think, interesting to DJI that they paid to have me send it back. They wanted to, in a sense, study the black box, if you would, and figure out what happened. They never did figure out what happened. The whole system just blanked out and died. And it happens
Was
even to the good ones.
Interference?
At first I thought, maybe something government, but I was hired by the government. So I don't know why they would, shut me down.
Well, that wouldn't affect the battery anyway.
No, exactly. But the whole thing just died. Just in 1 second, all came down, land. If there wouldn't have been a tree just over my head, would have hit me on the head, and came down right next to me and just broke apart.
Whoa.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah, it hurts, especially when you're out of your insurance on it.
Oh.
Well, I guess that's why the regulations prohibit you from flying overhead people
Right.
and things like that.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
accidents happen even to the good stuff, but maybe less likely, like Mark was saying. The good stuff has so many precautions set in place. If you don't turn it off, they're pretty darn safe, maybe almost impossible to crash if you just don't do something stupid. Yeah.
Hey, Bill, you're probably going to get into this, but is the DJI insurance package you can get for the first year, is that renewable for successive years?
I think I've never purchased it for additional years. I always buy it the first year, just in case something goes wrong. Usually when something new comes out, with everything I buy for it, ends up being about, 3,000, 3,500 or something. So I always buy the 1 year. Thankfully, I've never needed it. But that particular one that died was about 1.5 years into that original Phantom Pro, the first one. And of course it wasn't covered then. And, it's not enough money to turn into insurance, make your insurance go up. So you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place and just have to absorb it. So, but yeah, that hurts. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started. Now it's officially time.
It
So,
is.
welcome everybody. I'm going to mute everyone except for Rachel and Bill so that they can just get out of the box right away. But first we're going to have our Camera Club business meeting. So I am going to mute everyone and then unmute. Let's see. Okay. All right, Rachel, you're going to have to unmute yourself, I guess. It won't let me unmute you.
Okay, done.
And Bill, would you please unmute yourself too? And that way you'll be all set to go. Thanks.
Okay, good.
And then, as I mentioned, I invite some people to speak. Would you please make sure that you push the space bar so that you're unmuting yourself temporarily? So, hi, welcome to our rescheduled meeting, October meeting. So this is officially still October. Halloween hasn't even happened. But what I want you to know is that it's dark outside. No, I don't like that, but happy harvest to everybody. We're very thankful to Bill Mahon. Is that how you say it, Bill?
Sounds good. Depends on where you're from.
Mahon.
It's Irish. I guess if you're Irish, you would say Mahon, but everybody says Mahon. That's fine.
All right. Well, there's so many ways to say it. So Mahon.
I've been called worse than that before.
Well, we're thankful that you were able to reschedule with us.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you.
too.
We really appreciate it. So, want to tell you a little bit about Gold Country Challenge. There was some wonderful work at the Nevada City Picture Framing Gallery. If you had a chance to see it, it was up for Open Studios, and the work was wonderful. And I'm just going to quickly go through who the winners were so that you get some love and recognition. Best of Show, Castaway Coup by Rachel Rosenthal. Yay, Rachel.
Oh, very nice.
Best of Show, Honorable Mention, Maria's Wall by Jerry Thomas. Congratulations, Jerry. Award for the Best Nature, Blackberry Bramble by Dave McClellan. He even adorned his with live blackberry vines. That was good. After Dark Award, Nevada City Miners Foundry by John Sievert. Congratulations. Every Picture Tells a Story Award, School 2020 by Mark Triolo. Historic Nevada County Award, the Jones Fire Fear by Ann Westling. Very nice composite. Mixed Media Award by Ellen Davis won that with I Don't Give a Fig. And if you had a chance to see that, or even if you didn't, she's going to be teaching her technique at the workshop, which we'll talk a little more about later. So that was just a beautiful piece. Best Abstract or Creative Award is Silk Faces by Mike Shea. Quintessential Nevada County is A View of Mine on Wolf Creek by Bill Wages. Congratulations, Bill. People's Choice. It was a tie between Ellen, I Don't Give a Fig, and Kathy Triolo. Who's that? Little Free Library. I put it up on my wall already. So thanks everybody for participation. Hopefully next year we'll get to have our party in person. It was a good Zoom party, but there was something missing, I think. So thank you goes also to Dave Arstein. I don't know if y'all noticed that our website has been faster, but that's because Dave contracted with a new internet service provider, and they are so much faster than our old internet service provider. So congratulations for the smooth transition. We didn't even know it. And also, while you're on the site, you'll notice there's a new link at the bottom of the list when you sign in, and that is for the newsletter archive. If you've missed past newsletters, you just sign in and click on the 3 bars and go down to newsletter archive, and you get to immerse yourself in history, at least for the last 2 years. So we have a couple of save the dates. The first one is next Saturday, November 7th. And what is that? It's our yearly workshop. Unfortunately, we can't meet in person. We actually did consider it, and I did talk to the church, but no, we're not quite ready, especially if there's going to be a second wave of COVID. So we're going virtual. Douglas will be telling us more about that later, and a little bit later in the announcements. It's great education and it's free, so please take advantage of the opportunity. So announcements, David Wong, why don't you unmute yourself and tell us about elections?
So we have elections coming up. We vote in November. The slate of people are for, they're all uncontested. For president, we have Rachel Rosenthal. For vice president, we have Kathy Triolo. They're running for a swap the office there. Dave Connell is running for secretary. Mike Shea is running again for treasurer. That's
Well,
it,
those
right?
are the,
Yeah.
but if somebody wants something else, like we've got other volunteer jobs, we are happy to take volunteers.
Yes, and I don't think it's too late if you want to nominate somebody or yourself for any of these jobs, but as Dave Arsean is so fond of saying, it's like free cancer.
not. These-
Yeah, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. It's really a very, you know, we all think about, oh, it's another job, but you really learn a lot and can get and contribute a lot and get a lot out of being the camera club by being an officer. I think you can ask any one of them, and it's very rewarding.
It's
You know,
fun.
the pay is great, you know. Yeah. So we have that as the slate so far, and we will vote on that at the November meeting.
Which is in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we'll do that. Dave Arstein will set up a process where we can do that virtually. So
Super. Although
that-
if the offices are uncontested, we don't need voting.
well,
I
do
thought
we?
that it was by acclamation.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't know
So-
what the bylaws say, but
Yeah.
technically, I guess whether we need it or not, it's, you know, if they're uncontested, they're uncontested.
Yeah.
So
So contest us. Come on, volunteer. Let's get a little action going.
yeah.
All right.
right.
Thank you, David. Anything else there?
No, other than announcements, of which I'll chime in when you do that.
Okay, great. Douglas, would you please share about the workshop that's happening this Saturday? Is Douglas still with us? Yeah. Good.
So we've got our annual workshop coming up this Saturday, November 7th. We've got 8 wonderful sections to share with you. In the morning, the general design is for each time slot, there's a class that's a little bit more in the beginning category and a little bit more in the advanced category, but that's up to you to decide if that's true or not. In the first morning time slot, we have Mark Triello teaching focus and exposure setting basics, and I'll be talking about the art of making a great photo. Late morning, Kathy Triello will be teaching beginning Photoshop, and Rick Ashelman will be teaching, I didn't get your new title in here, Rick. It's landscape and astrophotography.
It's photo pills.
Photo
Introduction
pills.
to photo pills.
Introduction to photo pills, like she said.
Yeah.
Lunch
When does
break.
it start?
Rick's class starts at 10:30 a.m.
But the whole thing starts at 9, and I'm going to be getting a schedule out after the meeting to everybody.
And we've got a lunch break 12 to 1, and the 1 o'clock to 2:30 time slot is Beginning Lightroom by Rachel Rosenthal. And the other one, Jonathan Beth is going to give us a short presentation on making greeting cards. And then David Wong will round out that last section of that time slot. And David, I didn't get your title into this chart either. What's the title of your talk?
What did I say, Kathy? It's
The judging and critique, how to know what judges look for or critiquers.
yeah.
Something-
I'm going to talk about what judges and critiquers look for people that want to enter photo contests or get juried. Things that you might want to look for.
That sounds great. And then the last time slot of the day, Ellen will be showing us 3 different ways to make a photo transfer. And Kathy Triello will be teaching advanced beginning Photoshop. And that'll be our day.
Super.
And you figure it ends about when?
4 p.m., no later than 4 p.m.
No. Any questions?
Yeah, Kathy, what happens if you want to take all of them?
They're going to be recorded, and we'll have them all up on YouTube, and then you can just watch at your little heart's content. Thanks, Ann. Anybody else? All right, good. It's going to be a really good workshop. So if you're free Saturday, make sure you join in. And the thing about this is going to be a real grand experiment for us. Thank you to Douglas for putting, as usual, every year he puts this together for us. But this year we had to go online. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works because normally this is a hands-on workshop. So it's going to be more Zoomy. So
how will you guys do the workshops? Are they going to be filmed so that the viewers can actually see the person and doing whatever they're doing technique wise?
Well, in Zoom, we can make breakout rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having 2 sections at the same time and both are being recorded.
Okay.
And there'll be live presentations at the time.
Right.
Nice. Okay.
Right. So hopefully, fingers crossed, right? You know, you never know how this technical stuff is going to go, but so far it's been good. Okay, Mark Triolo, you want to talk about membership?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. We have one new member this month, Deborah Davis. Deborah, if you're online with us, I don't think you are, but if you are, could you press your space bar and let us know?
No, she's not, honey.
Yeah, okay, I didn't see her. Okay, so we'll catch up with her next month. Otherwise, everything is running smoothly membership-wise. We're continuing to get people in spite of not meeting live, which is really pretty terrific. So we're still very, very healthy. So onward and upward, and we'll catch up with Deborah next month.
Are you going to be doing a new member orientation again? Do you have enough new members to do that?
Probably, I will probably offer it. The last one was about a little over a month ago. I'll probably do one in November next month, and I'll announce it a couple weeks in advance.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Bill Wages, do you have anything to say for field trips?
Yeah, we're working on one. I'm working with David on one possibly in December to do the Casumnas Sandhill cranes and stuff. I'll work with David once he gets back. And then I got to get together with Rick, and we're talking about coming up with a list for next year for some good ideas and stuff. So
great.
About it right
now. All right. Any questions about field trips for anybody?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
There was a email that Kathy sent out, maybe a month ago, about some organization or place to stay or something like this for photo workshops in Death Valley, just outside of Death Valley. And it sounded real interesting to me. And I wonder if you guys, how many people are interested in that? And if you guys will be planning on doing something like that in the spring.
David Wong, didn't you say that you had planned to camp at that place or stay there?
I was going to camp at Shoshone RV Park.
That's it.
And I originally I was going to do that on the way to New York City with my trailer, but we flew instead of drove. But there's some really nice spots and dunes. I think Peter Mason was talked about some of that, and I don't know if Peter went down to north of Death Valley and then Shiprock in New Mexico and a bunch of other places. There's a whole bunch of stuff down there. If people are interested, I think it'd be something we could put together.
You know, Keith, why don't you send an email to Bill Wages and just connect with him about that, and maybe you two can continue the conversation.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Any more field trips? All right, let's do some other announcements. Ellen, I know you want to go over the gallery call.
All right, so Nevada City Picture Framing, they have that really beautiful wall space, and they are continuing the club to use that space to show artwork. And so I did send out an email to the club, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody got the email. And if you did not get the email, check your spam box, or or send me a message on the chat, or send me an email at ellendavisphoto@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that you get connected up with the call for entry for that. And so the important deadline, the first important deadline is November 18th. It's your submission deadline, and you can submit up to 5 entries. The theme for the show is fall colors. And so we just wanted 2000 pixels on the longest side. And then there's a naming protocol, which I have spelled out in the email. So yeah, I look forward to getting people's entries and seeing the next show.
Thank you so much for taking on this position. You're going to be absolutely super.
So, and I'm glad Dave McClellan is staying on, and we're going to be gallery buddies, I guess.
That's it. You two are going to be hanging buddies. It's true.
Hanging buddies. That sounds a little nefarious.
Oh, we all know the truth.
Just hanging out.
That's right. Hanging out together. All right. Thanks, Ellen. Let's see. David Wong, I think you have an announcement. You have to unmute, though. I see the mouth moving. No? There you go.
Okay. I have a show starting on November 10th at Viewpoint Photographic Art Center in Sacramento, and it'll run for a month until December 5th, and it's called The Art of Birds. I will have 19 photos in the Step Up Gallery at Viewpoint. Viewpoint is on approximately J and 21st Street in Sacramento. If you're not familiar with Viewpoint, Viewpoint is an all photographic gallery. We are celebrating our 30-year anniversary, and I invite you to come and see my exhibit. I have, there's Gary Wagner, who will be the other person exhibiting on his black and white Iceland photos. And the gallery Viewpoint is open from Thursday through Saturday. And we are, a big drum roll, returning. We will have an actual open to the public reception. Our first ones, it's limited to 10 people in the gallery at a time. We will have an opening, an artist reception where I will meet and greet and talk, as well as Gary will. That's from 5 to 7 on November 13th. There is a second Saturday reception on Saturday the 14th, also from 5 to 7. So I'd welcome any of you to come down. And if you've not been to Viewpoint, you should come down, because we have great photography. And I will end this by mentioning, and Rachel could talk about it, because Rachel Rosenthal is going to be in there in the January show. And Rachel, you can talk about your show, and she's going to have a reception also.
Woohoo!
So I'll end with that and let Rachel talk.
Thanks, David. Go, Rachel. You want to take a moment?
Well, first, just say congratulations to David. That's very cool. And I look forward to seeing your images down there at one of those receptions. And I'll talk about mine next month. How about that? So,
okay.
Okay.
And as long as we're talking about galleries, let's congratulate Bill Wages on being accepted at Artworks Gallery to take over after David Wong left. So congratulations, Bill. That's pretty cool stuff too. Does anybody else have an announcement before we turn the show over to Rachel and Bill?
Actually, I have one other one. I'm doing a family and pet portrait session on November 21st for anybody that wants to do family and their pets or whatever. So if you know anyone that wants to do that, $50, and you can email me to sign up.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to respond to a question about the Open Studios winning photos. The question was, will the winning images be posted on our website? No, they won't. However, I will send out a link to our Wix site, which was for the challenge, and you can see all the images there. So we'll definitely send a link out for you on that. Okay, anybody else? Announcements? Press your space bar to talk. All righty. Rachel, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So Mark said we don't have any newer folks here tonight, correct? No new members, but just in case, I serve as VP and program chair. So if you have ideas for speakers, please let me know. Tonight's topic actually was motivated by a request from Ed Sylvester. He wanted to hear all about drones. I haven't seen Ed's name.
He's here.
Bernadette. He's here. I see Bernadette.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm glad they're here. And so Bill's online, maybe you got a chance to chat with him, but he is a professional photographer from Sacramento, and he'll be talking about drone photography tonight. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a minute. So we'll have his presentation followed by a short intermission and then our critique of members' images. And tonight there are 55 images submitted. And I wanted to encourage folks, I don't know if I've said this recently, please submit your images. We're having great participation, but if you didn't know, by submitting to the critique each month, you make yourself eligible for awards that are given out at our annual banquet each January. So you still have, if you haven't done it yet this year, submit for November, which will make you eligible for a potential prize in the month of January at our dinner. So. And actually, I say that, Kathy, do you want to mention the date of our annual dinner? I think it's January 25th.
January 20 something. Hold on, let me bring that up.
Okay.
Oh, hello. All right, it is January. Oh, good. I don't even have it down here. I'll get it out to everybody in a minute.
Okay.
Let's
all right.
keep going.
Okay. It will be via Zoom. It won't be in person, but we are going to do an annual banquet online. All right. So tonight, a couple of reminders. After the meeting tonight, don't forget to vote for your favorites on the club's website. And then next month, November, our last meeting for 2020, the presenter will be Kirk Keeler. He's a photographer, professional photographer who worked for several years at the Ansel Adams Yosemite Gallery. And so he's recently moved to the area last year. And so he's going to talk to us about his experiences about shooting Yosemite National Park. So looking forward to that one. But tonight, let's look at tonight. Our speaker, yes, is Bill Mahon. And two huge thank yous to Bill right off the bat. And Kathy alluded to one of them is Bill agreed to speak on fairly short notice, so a huge thank you to him. And also a thank you to our kind of sister camera club, PPSV, Professional Photographers of Sacramento Valley. Kimberly Oker, who's come to speak, I reached out to her and she gave me Bill's name because he had been so well received by PPSV. So thank you to them for letting us know about Bill. And so Bill is a Sacramento-based professional commercial portrait and aerial photographer. He actually does many types of photography. It was a very long list, very impressive list. He attended the Brooks Institute of Photography and has traveled across the United States as an expert in lighting, composition, and style. And I hope I got this right. His bio says he is a chiaroscuro. Not right?
No.
You say it. How do you say it?
It's chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro.
Yeah,
new word for me.
That was a good effort, though.
Lighting expert who has added the chaotic arena, video, audio, multimedia drone to his professional services, and he did that about 5 years ago. So he notes that the aerial drone photography and videography and multimedia are now the largest and most untapped photography markets today. So tonight, he's going to provide an overview of the drone world. You heard a little bit about that as we were chatting before the meeting started, including technical and geeky details, critical FAA regulations, so you don't get yourself in trouble, and most importantly, how to have some fun, which is a big point of and mission of our club. So he does note that drones have been one of the best new products he's ever added because they're fun, exciting to fly, and considered one of the coolest big kid toys. So with that, please welcome Bill Mahon.
Don't forget, we want to make a little money if you can. I like the money side too.
Absolutely.
So, well, for those of you who don't know me, I started my photography business here in Sacramento, where I am, in 1992. And that puts me in the, sorry, my dog's right here. That puts me in that 27-year range of not having to have a real job. Thankfully, my wife has a real job. If you didn't get that, she has a real job. So if I'm slow, we're still good. So my background started like I would say probably most photographers. I just like to give you kind of a well-rounded how I got to this drone stuff. The first 10 years, I really focused on events and portraits and families and whatever people would, pay me to do. And I found this, of course, is pre-digital, pre-computer, pre-internet, all of the above. We still had to actually know what you were doing. And I just found that it was really hard to compete, and you're kind of forced to kind of compete in the high volume arena. And being a solo person, it just wasn't, I knew it wasn't possible it was not possible to really compete in that arena. And trying to tap into the higher end stuff, I found was challenging and maybe, not even real likely. About that time, I got turned on to APA in San Francisco, which doesn't exist anymore, at least not in the form that it used to, which was Advertising Photographers America. And that was one of their largest branches. It was in San Francisco, and I started going to weekly meetings. About that time, I realized that if I jumped into the commercial editorial advertising world, maybe I could do half as many jobs for the same amount of money, and sounded pretty good to me. It was enticing a little bit because it looked kind of exciting, but I really went headlong quickly, just jumped in, all of me, into that advertising, commercial. I can't forget corporate stuff because, that's a lot of my work. Magazine type work at that time. And so from that point, I really transitioned quickly and completely into that world. Both sides have some pros and cons, but it's been a really good span of years for me, completely in the corporate commercial advertising type world. Not always easy and very expensive to play in that world. So having said all of that, just a little more than about 5 years ago, I'm watching where our world was going in our photo type business, because I was a still photographer by trade. And it seemed real clear to me that the photo and video world really was kind of all jumping in bed together, and we're all using similar, if not the same equipment. And I'm looking out saying, wow, I have to still work another 20 years at that point. I'm saying I get to work another 20 years because I love and have a passion for what we do. And I get that same sense from you all when you're talking as well. And I saw that, well, if this is where we're going, it really is get on or get off, decide what you're going to do. And if you want to be around 20 more years, you've got to jump into where our world was going. And it wasn't that it was going there, it was already there, but not necessarily to the masses. And I started doing about a year's worth of research and homework in this arena of audio, of multimedia, video, and I included drones in there. And within about a year, I spent a ridiculous amount of money all at one time and added all of those venues, I'm going to call them, or avenues, whatever you want to call them. arms of income. And within the first year of doing that, it was more than half of my business. And I'd like to say that had I not been graced with that insight at that time and jumped in at 200%, not holding back anything, I mean, I have easily in the thousands of hours of research, of homework, of preparation, and whatever, to have been able to do this, and continually, as we're ever learning. You never stop learning. I don't think I would have enough work if I wasn't doing everything. So what I've noticed, and I hope you don't mind me taking a couple of minutes here to kind of point everybody in this direction. Now, maybe this isn't for everybody, but at this point, I still get to work a lot of years. Even though I've been doing this since 1992, I still get to do a lot of years if I want to. And I do. And the ability to be able to do at least the basics. Maybe you're not going to master all those different areas, but at least have the basics of video, the basics of audio, the basics of multimedia. And what I'm calling multimedia is not our old school, what we called multimedia before, but it's taking all those assets of photo, video, audio, I'll add drone in there, and mixing all those together into a single product or multiples of product for a single client. And maybe you'll not be doing TV commercials, but maybe you're doing portraits, maybe nice high-end portraits, family portraits, senior portraits, being able to add a benefit of being able to do a simple video with some audio, or a simple drone, something, photo, video of the senior or of the family walking along the beach or something, really adds a level of why someone would want or need to come to you. And to be honest with you, you don't really have to know that much. You need to know the basics or the foundations of each of those areas so that you can do it excellently, like I'm sure all of you are pushing in your own world of your work that's out there. You don't necessarily have to move to where I'm at. It gets very technical and complicated. However, I think it's necessary if you're going to be around another 10 years or another 20 years or whatever your plan is, to at least jump into the basics. And then I would say that more than half, if not half of my work right now are small businesses, let's call it business to business, coming to me because maybe their budgets are small, and they're coming to me because I can do everything they need to be done. And when it comes to photo, audio, video, multimedia, drone, all those things blended into one. And so I get at least half of my work is that small business to business jobs because they have small budgets and they can't afford to bring in, multiple companies or people to do all these different areas. And the price is going to be 4 or 5 times what I'd be charging. So I just want to throw that out there. That's why I'm at where I'm at today. And I just mean that's why I'm in the direction that I'm in today. And thank God I did that. Or I don't think with how the world in our industry has changed, and from 12 real commercial studios in the Sacramento, Northern California area in 1992 to maybe 3,500, 4,000 in appearance anyways, studios. When someone Googles or searches for something, boy, it's really hard to be in that mix, and it's so oversaturated that something's got to set you apart. So having said that, and now pushing in the direction of drones, without a doubt, drones specifically are the largest, somewhat untapped market at this point. That won't be for many years. That's going to be just for now, for however long to ride that wave of not as many people out there. So just to give you for instance, I live studio co-working space where I work out of in Sacramento has, if you type in, drone photographer or drone videographer, a lot more people come up based rather than like, for instance, if you type in where I live in Rockland, almost in Lincoln. There really is just one handful, and I generally come up first. So in that general vicinity, I kind of own the world. Why? Well, there's not a lot of people. It's just by virtue of it's not very saturated yet. And in Sacramento, I'm on the first page constantly. That may only ride for another year or two. I don't know. But it really is probably one of the best markets out there. It is not a get rich quick market. It is a market that has a cost to it. I would agree with, I can't remember, maybe it was Mark or David that said this earlier when we were talking. If you're going to make $1 at it, you definitely need a more at least pro consumer level drone so that you can hand out or deliver a pro level product. In my opinion, you always want to put your best foot forward, your best work out there. You never want to put half done stuff or stuff that's low quality and just hope that it works. It's going to work against you eventually. And so jumping into that market, at least a high-end prosumer level drone, in my opinion, is where you need to be for quality purposes. So I will try to kind of hone in now a little bit. If you can kind of bear with me on some of the technical geeky stuff. In this arena of drones, which would add photos and video in there, I've really had to learn the hard way. And I learned the hard way in the sense I had no idea what I was doing when I got started. You need to have a little bit of technical competency, if that's the right word to use, or at least know how, or you're bent on the technical side a little bit. But if you purchase a drone that is in that prosumer, a little higher level drone, which we were talking about, which I will be going over, at least in their automated abilities, they have the ability to save you and help you and do a lot of work for you and make you even look better than you are without having to learn a lot of things. Now, I'm going to tell you something silly. This isn't to go anywhere outside of, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Okay. So when I bought the first drone, which was the DJI Phantom 4, the original one, I could not figure, and I'm really tech savvy, I could not figure out how to do all that automated stuff. It just was, I don't know what it was. My mind wasn't thinking in that direction. And so unfortunately, but fortunately, I had to teach myself how to do it all manually. And so at this point, it's kind of half and half, but it really has helped me because I had to learn to fly without all the automated stuff. I just flat out couldn't figure it out, that first drone, for a good, I don't know, maybe even 6 months, a year. And I was doing it daily. And I don't know, my brain wasn't clicking on how they were thinking. So now don't tell anybody outside of our 200 people here. Okay. So, so bottom line is I say that because, some people are afraid, might be afraid. I wasn't afraid to try it. I just got a little frustrated trying to figure out the automated portion, of which I understand now. And that just means everybody could do it, and don't be afraid to try. It's both fun. It is a little bit scary, if you've got $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, whatever it is, even $1,000 up in the air, and it's a little bit scary thinking, boy, I hope nothing happens because I'm going to have to eat this or buy another one or whatever. So let's start by just talking about buying drones. I want to give you the pros and cons, the nuts and bolts, if you can bear with me on the nuts and bolts. I think this is probably going to be helpful and help you not have to do so much homework to jump into this arena, even if it's just for fun, not necessarily for making $1. So buying a drone, I think doing your homework is really like if you're going to buy a car, you're not going to just go buy a car without doing some homework on it first. Do your homework. The upside of buying a brand such as DJI is they're really the world's premier largest drone manufacturer, both consumer and professionally, for the most part. Now, there are some specialty arenas. I'm not including them in there. I'm just talking about our world, okay? There are other brands out there that are good, okay? They may even have some benefits of which I'll talk to you about, but not enough to purchase them over the DJI brand, okay? So I don't work for DJI. I don't get paid for DJI, but I so did my homework before jumping into this market. And then now 5 years of flying, I really have a level of confidence, but I'm also going to tell you maybe the cons on going with a big name like DJI also. Okay. So first of all, I am pointing you in the direction of DJI because they're a proven drone. Their track record is good. Their customer service is good. All of the technology, their apps, their website, in which are a must to be able to fly, are good. They all work. There are times when, and I'll get to that later on, but I'll just mention it. If you have to do some custom, what they call custom unlocking of your geo zones, don't worry about that term yet. I'll get to it. I even have a direct email to their headquarters overseas that can, they'll respond to you within even just hours to take care of a custom unlocking that I need done. And I'll explain all of that later. So having said that, you know, I know in that drone market, there are brands of drones in that $100, even less range, but even up into $25,000. I'm not talking about that level of stuff. For most of us, that's not reality. That's not even necessary, okay? If you were to stick with, let's say, DJI, for instance, within their Mavic series, their Phantom series, their Inspire, if you're going to want to spend quite a bit more money, you're real safe, secure. It's a real solid area to go, and it's a most definitely professional grade. I'll call it high-end prosumer to pro level drones. Okay. Price range, you know, if you don't have to have the most current one, I kind of suggest on anything electronic or digital, always buying, figuring out what the most expensive one you can afford is, and then put a little extra money into it than that. It hurts a little bit, but at least, you know, like your computer is going to last you 5 years if you don't crash it, and be a viable moneymaker for you for a good 5 years, as long as you buy something in that realm. Okay. But definitely the price range in there, probably in that $1,000 to $2,000 range for a basic setup. Keep in mind, if you're going to do this commercially, and when I say commercially, I mean making $1. Okay, that's what I mean. I don't mean for movies or TV, whatever, just making $1, not recreationally. Okay, there are some additional rules and regulations that you have to follow on both sides, but that are different on the commercial side than on the recreational side. I'll talk about that briefly. In the drone world, when you're looking at that drone, again, pointing kind of in that direction of the Mavic, the Phantom, and I'm looking at my notes, and the Inspire series, it's a really safe bet. We've come a long way in what I call the high-end prosumer drones. That first one I had was really bad in low light. The current one, I've stuck with the Phantom only because I'm comfortable with it. The new Mavic series is very impressive, and I know that. And I don't need to spend the money of the Inspire side. I would like to, but it's way up there. We've come a long way in quality, especially in the low light or in the high speed, you know, frames per second, than that first drone that I bought. My second point would be pointing towards these technical aspects. There are things that are really critical, in my opinion, to be able to offer your clients a professional grade or a professional level product. So whether I'm doing still life photos, whatever it is, it could be a corporate portrait, it could be a family portrait, whatever it is, my goal, because it's personal to me, is to always put out the best product possible. Why would I want to put out anything less than that? I'm not going to be happy. If I'm happy, everybody else is happy most of the time. And for most of you, I'm going to guess you're in the same mindset as me. Our standards for our work are probably higher than the standards that the people that hire us are for the work you're doing for them. Our own standards are high. I carry that into the same realm because I want to put out a professional grade product that I can be proud of. And so in having said that, you know, these newest drones, as you know, in the digital world, are there any film shooters still? That's not a down. I just want to know, do we have any film shooters still in the club? Is that a yay or a nay? Anybody? Rachel?
I'm looking at the chat. I'm not aware of any, and I'm looking for people to respond to the chat, but I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay, and the reason I was saying that, I don't want to put down the film side. There's still a real viable art market and specialty market for the film, but I don't do anything film any longer, and I haven't for, I think, maybe 15 years now. Having said that, the things that are really important with these drones is we've moved into a larger sensor size. So just like it was in the film days, if you shot, if you shot a little 110 camera, and you're on your vacation shooting 110, your negative was this little tiny thing, about that big, and if you shot 35 millimeter, then your negative was a little bit bigger. And if you shot, a medium format like a Hasselblad or a Bronica or whatever, or Mamiya, all of a sudden your image gets bigger. If you shot 4x5, sheet film, all of a sudden here, or 8x10, like I used to do 8x10 stuff, it made a difference depending. You could have the best 110 camera the world makes. It could be, I'm going to make a joke, it could be a Leica 110. But if you have a Leica 35 millimeter, there's just no comparison on image quality because of the film size. The film quality could be great on that Leica 110, but it's just superior with more information and larger on the print that you have to work with on that Leica 35 millimeter. So the reason I'm saying that is we're going to talk about sensor size just for a minute. The majority of the prosumer drones out there until just recently have smaller than a 1-inch sensor. And that really limits you. And the smaller the sensor, the worse it is in low light. Okay. If you like to do low light photography, that'll be, Rachel, where our chiaroscuro comes in. I'm not picking on you. Then you really need to move into the realm of at least a 1-inch sensor on these drones. That's where your homework comes in. And to my knowledge, all the current Mavics, and the newest ones, I don't know about, a few back, Phantoms and even the Inspire all have a 1-inch sensor in them. And that would be what's equivalent to what we used to say film size. Okay? And I know all of you understand film size and quality and what you can or can't do with the different film size. You on the 4x5 sheet film, which I used to shoot mainly, I could get a much, I'll call it higher end, but a much larger print out of that than I could on that 35 millimeter film. So the same is true with these sensors. So it's not all about, as you know, it's not all about megapixels. Sensor size is really a huge portion of quality and what you have the ability to do. And currently, so is the 1-inch sensor perfect? No, it's not. Is it great in low light? No, but it's good. Okay, it's professionally good. Let's use that term. And it is professional grade in everything that I do. I haven't had any clients, whether they're using it on, a still image for print, whether they're using a video on social media, or a few of them have gone to maybe a TV spot or something. They're good enough, professionally good quality to be able to use. And in my opinion, you got to be at least there. Okay. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to keep looking at my notes because I put in a lot of effort this year to make sure that I hit some really important points that I've had to learn the hard way, which I'd like to get you past if you are just starting, so you don't have to do that yourself. And everybody can hear me okay. Is that right? Everybody's good? Okay. So another thing that has changed over the last version or two is what we call frame rate. And some of them allow you to shoot a higher frame rate, and this has more to do with the video side. But if you're doing solely still photos, you've got to consider the basics of video, because it really is going to be a nice little benefit that you can add, whether you're adding it for free in a simple, basic way, so that people have to come to you because nobody else is doing that, or whether it's a small add-on that you're going to get to charge a little bit more for. You really need to be able to get the basics of the video side down, especially in the drone world. I think it's a really great arena to make a little bit of extra money and make yourself stand out. So frame rates, until recently, I don't know if you've seen videos out there where they do slow motion, where someone's jumping across the scene and you see everything happen as they go across the screen. We'll say that's controlled by frame rate. So the higher the frame rate, the slower you can make your video go in post-production. So we've recently gone into higher frame rates, like 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second, and so on. And that becomes important technical geeky detail depending on what you're wanting to do. Secondly, when you're talking about, when I say 4K versus 1080p, okay, the misnomer on the video side is that 4K is quality. It's not as much quality as size. Okay, I'm gonna make up my own description here so that it makes sense. If you can imagine 1080p being a 4x5 sheet of film, in a sense, 4K is an 8x10 sheet of film. So you've got more frame to work with. Now, if something is like, on your DSLR or your mirrorless cameras, okay, some of the sensors are, or let's say the majority of them on prosumer down to consumer level drones and cameras they're not really giving you a larger, they're just cropping it and it isn't necessarily bigger in size. Okay. I will say, on the full frame, that's even true on some of the full frame cameras where it's just cropping the sensor to give you 4K. And that's not bad necessarily, but just have a knowledge that it really is 4K versus 1080p really has more to do with image size or video, the output, the screen size it's going to show on than it does to quality. But quality is in there. So keep in mind, if you're going to buy something, it's kind of like shooting RAW versus JPEG, okay, in your digital cameras. Why would I shoot something in JPEG? Not that the quality is bad. If you're not going to touch that image, there is really not much difference in quality right out of the camera on a RAW. There is, got much more information. Okay, don't get me wrong. I understand how that works, but it is more about post-production. So post-production on a still photo, you really need a raw image if you're going to maintain the quality that your camera has the ability to see and put out. Same thing in video. If you're going to shoot 4K, I can always take it down in size. You might even be able to make it a little bit larger in the size of the output. But why would I film only in 1080p if the drone has the ability to film in 4K and a raw footage at that to give me the post-production room to be able to do more things to it and not lose as much quality? It really comes down to the same thing. So whether it's my DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, they're full frame. I only shoot in RAW. I just don't see any purpose in shooting in JPEG because why would I want to cut myself off at the knees right off the bat? Okay, because we're going to post-production the heck out of that thing usually, or at least sometimes. And same thing on the drones. I only shoot in 4K, partly because I've done my thorough test. I don't like the quality out of the 1080p. That 1-inch sensor is nowhere near your full frame mirrorless or your full frame DSLR camera in size and maybe in the end, even quality. It's great, but it's not as good as those still. Keep that in mind. And so I only shoot in the 4K, and I would only recommend working in 4K. That does come with some challenges, okay? The challenges are going to reside on the end of the post-production. Now you need a computer that can be able to handle that kind of information, even on a 1-inch sensor. When I first jumped into the video and audio multimedia arena, I realized, okay, now I had the iMac that I'm on right now was the best money could buy 5 years ago. It's outdated now and ready to be replaced. I can't do video on it because the files are too massive. And even though 5 years ago, when I called Apple, I told them to build me the best they could do for video, and they custom built it, and now it's obsolete and won't handle video. Imagine that, 5 years. But had I not done that, I wouldn't even got 5 years out of it. So because I could not, and maybe would not have afforded the new iMac Pros, all of a sudden you're getting into 10 or 15,000 instead of 5,000. It's hard to justify that. I custom built a PC that ranges up in some of the fastest computers in the world. And I did it for less than what I paid on my $5,000, custom build iMac 5 years ago. I think somewhere in the $3,700 range or something, $3,800. But it wasn't an option. I got caught with my pants down, no pun intended, on a video job, and I way underestimated. See, I'm not perfect. I'd like to tell you the mistakes I made so that maybe you also don't have to make the mistakes. Filming a live event all in 4K with multiple cameras, DSLRs, I had no concept, or I underestimated is a better way to do it, the processing power that would be needed to do 4 one-hour speaker videos in 4K. I really bit it hard. I almost lost the job because I couldn't get it out of my computer, okay? So having said that, I don't want to make it scary, but I will say that most of us would need to upgrade our computers to something newer, more robust processing power if you're going to work in the 4K video side. It's surprisingly large. Okay, so I want to throw that out there. It does add a level of expense to things. So let's see what else. I would say the ability. I'm going to pick up my drone now. Okay, so can you all see this? Okay, this is the Phantom 4 Pro Plus. The Obsidian version. When it first came out, I thought, well, it was great to have this black color because it was easier to see in that sky. It's real challenging. On the original version was white. You get up there 200 feet and I can't even find it myself, and the couple of things I want to point out, let's go this way, is, let me turn it. How can I do it? There we go. So here, now I've got a brace. I will throw out a bonus here. The only bad design by DJI, let me get it against this. Okay, this is the gimbal lens holder, so that when it is in transit, that gimbal is protected, because that's the most delicate part of this drone. So on the video side, a drone that has the ability, you see this black filter here, that's an ND filter. So do I need that on the still photo side? No. Where is it mandatory? Okay, it's on the video side. Okay, again, this was something I kind of had to learn the hard way, but getting a drone that allows you to add ND filters for video is a necessity, not a desire. It's an absolute necessity. On the video side.
So Bill, can I ask you, do you happen to have any video footage that we could see? That
I have all of the above, all prepared for you, all open already when I go to screen share. Am I getting too geeky for you guys? Is this too technical weird? It's okay if it is, because I don't have to keep going this same direction. So,
I don't see any questions rolling in, but I really appreciate seeing a drone. And do you have others? I've not been up and close and personal.
No, actually I only have one, and that's why it hurt when I crashed the first one. I had to immediately send in the first one and buy another one, and I'm on my third one. This is the third version I've had.
Okay.
I have about $3,500 invested in this drone with all the accessories. I just want to tell you, the drone is somewhere, I don't know, when I bought it, somewhere around $1,700 or $1,800, but that's not enough. You do have to have additional things. You need, like if you're going to fly it professionally, I have 6 batteries. Well, you need at least 4, in my opinion. You're going to get 20 to 30 minutes out of each of these batteries. And you could imagine just getting the drone started and then getting it up in the air before you even start filming, 5 minutes is gone already. So now you got 25 minutes or, 15 minutes, depending on your battery. And so having enough batteries is real critical. And then just like on your DSLRs or your mirrorless cameras, if you don't want to charge one battery at a time, now you need the multiple chargers. So you can charge all of them at one time. You also need, they are user changeable, the propellers very easily. It's the only thing I've had to change myself on these drones is the propeller. If you hit a branch or you come down and you're in manual mode and you don't land correctly and maybe it tips over and breaks the propeller, you need an extra set or 2 of propellers with you on each job to be able to do that. Thirdly,
so can I ask you a question? Like do you put different lenses on that?
No.
On the camera on there?
So
no.
There is a deficit to these prosumer drones, which is why, and I think it was Mark earlier, I can't, or maybe David talking about, I think it was David talking about the Mavic, and I asked if he had the Zoom version. In my opinion, the more important thing than the Carl Zeiss lens and camera on that is going to be the zoom factor, that you have the ability to zoom in. Now, the only thing I don't know about that particular drone, which is the Mavic Air 2 Zoom, is I don't know if it's just cropping in on the sensor or if it's actually zooming in. I haven't done the homework on that. I have no intention of buying it, but to me, that would be a big feature because these lenses are super wide. I will get to some samples and show you everything's correctable, but when you're doing a super wide landscape, for instance, you might get a little bit of bowing in the horizon. Okay, easily correctable, but you know, as you know, in Lightroom or Photoshop, that's going to crop it a little bit. If you don't want it to crop a little bit, being able to zoom in would be a nice feature. Or if you're working with a senior and you're wanting to maybe have the drone follow her walking along a path or something, and you might want to zoom in a little bit. That is a really nice feature, of which most of them don't do until you get into the upper end. Nice new feature.
It would be great to see some samples when you can get.
I'm good. Would you like me to do that? I will follow your.
I'd love that, actually.
Okay, so I'll follow your lead. I want to first thing. Let's see. And you can't see this yet. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share my whole screen. Let's see. Let's go to desktop 1, and I want to make sure what you can see now. Are you seeing edge to edge of my screen? So or am I filling your screen still?
I see edge to edge.
Oh, good. Okay. Am I hidden? I just want to make sure you're seeing what I need you to see.
I see you on the side because I'm in Zoom.
Okay. I'm down on the side, so you see the screen without me in the center, right?
Exactly. Correct.
Good. That's okay. Good. Just making sure. All right. So a couple of things I'd like to point out here. I'm going to move things around a little bit. Okay. I want to point out, let me go to my folder here. Give me a second. So you have to forgive me since I'm doing it, and I'm happy to do this, by the way. Since I'm doing it a little out of my prepared order, I might fumble for a second. Okay, so I would like to first show you a couple of photos, and I'm just going to use the iMac preview. I don't know how it's going to look on your end. Look at the photo for what it is. And I'm just going to open a few of these images. Let's start with some still images first, okay? In my opinion, the drones are superior. They're very good on the still photo, but I will tell you the thing that I've learned on the still photo is within their automated features, they have the ability to take multiple pictures almost as if you're going to do a panoramic, so that you can get a larger frame, okay? I will say I have, in the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot more of that. I have one sample here at the bottom to show you. I get somewhere natively out of these 1-inch sensors in a raw image, okay, only raw, in a raw image. Oh, and by the way, I would like to say, turn off all that goofy stuff. It's no different than on your DSLR or on your mirrorless camera. Having things enhanced right in the camera, in my opinion, is pointless. Why would you want to embed information in your image that you're going to do in Lightroom and Photoshop anyways that you maybe can't get rid of? You're better off taking it raw and having things neutral, right? Don't exaggerate the colors in your camera or in your drone. While you're filming, shooting, don't exaggerate the sharpness. Don't exaggerate any of these things. Pick the most neutral image, even if it looks a little bit flat to you. Okay, you have in the raw feature, just like in your still cameras, you have the ability to make those enhancements without having this embedded information that you can't get rid of, or at least without noticeable challenges at times. So I do want to throw that out there. Now, having said that, being able to take multiple images in a panoramic type mode, I'm able to, whether you're in Lightroom or whether you're in Photoshop, or maybe you're in a third party, panoramic type program, you're able to then put those images together and be able to get a much larger image to work with. And so when I'm coming up on my landscape photos, I'm doing a lot of that these days because I like that larger image. Natively, I'm somewhere around maybe 11 by 14 or something right out of the camera, which is a little small for me in my opinion. Okay. So this happens to be a job for this crane company, Link Belt. I was privileged enough to get hired on this week-long job, and it was multimedia. It was still photos, drone photos and videos. It was videography, no audio in there. I didn't shoot any audio in that multimedia mix, but I was able to get a really nice week-long job with Link Belt. And this is a still image, unmanipulated but raw, from the Phantom 4 Pro Plus. Everyone can see this image with the bridge, okay, right? Shake
So
your head.
Bill, so what program are you in, a drone app, or are you just on preview? Looks like preview on your
I'm
Mac?
just using IMAX Preview.
Just, okay.
So it may look good or bad on your end. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but it's easy on my end to bring it up and let you see it. If you would prefer to look at it native, I could open these in Photoshop if you want. Is that necessary? No, I see no. Okay, good. So I even do architecture just above what I could be on with the drone, and it does a nice job. Are the perspectives 5 or 10% off? They are, but they're correctable in your raw image, in your raw processor, or whether you're using Lightroom. This one is not corrected straight out of the camera, but architecture, I did a whole Citibank job for a Southern California commercial real estate agency. This is also, and here's what I'm getting at. So this is also that same Citibank job. This is Citibank right here, but you're going to see a slight bow right here in this horizon. This is a straight raw image. This is not multiple images put together. This is straight out of the camera, a single raw image. This is correctable. I did not choose to correct this one. I do at times. This one didn't bother me so much. Once in a while, depending on circumstances, I don't know what, it's more bowed than this, and I don't like it, so I fix it. I do a lot of this kind of work for commercial real estate. This is probably the larger money arena for the drones. This and I'll call it agriculture / industrial. So the real estate market on the commercial side, this brings me to a really good point. You're probably going to be able to get somewhere between $300 and $600 to go out and do a job for the commercial real estate market. That's about all it's going to handle. This particular job, I was able to get about $900 because I was doing photo and video, drone only. That compared to my commercial side, non-drone, is super low. But that's where the market is for me. I would assume you're going to be in a similar market. And so I'm lowering it down to what I see average out there. I get a commercial realtor and I can get somewhere between $300 and $600 from them. That's about it. Okay. With the exception of this or this Link Belt type job.
So Bill, could we possibly move to some of your videos? I'm really dying to see that.
Okay, yeah,
how this thing works.
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and go down, and you guys can voice up anything you want to see. I'll move it in whatever direction you want at any time. I'm just easy here. Okay. So I want to show you a job that had issues. Okay, and I intentionally want to show you a job that had issues. Okay, so I'm going to make sure. Can everyone see that entire edge-to-edge video frame? Okay, is that a yes? Maybe Rachel.
I have the frame, the black frame inset on your computer.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to not make it full frame because
that's what I see.
I don't want it to go off someone's square, monitor or something.
Okay.
So let me just start by telling you, this was for the California Rice Commission. Fits well into our art world. These were artists all throughout our area. Let's just call it the general Sacramento area that were hired to do murals throughout downtown Sacramento on a beautification type thing. And I'm going to show you the video, and it's only 45 seconds. And then I want to tell you the problems I ran into, because this will bring me kind of into our next point. So I don't know if you can hear volume on your side. If you can't, Rachel, I want you to say, no, you can't hear or something, and we'll figure out how you can hear it. Okay. Otherwise, let's watch it. Here we go. Let's go here. And if you can hear me, I'm going to tell you why this is a drone job. Now, and you're going to laugh at me, but I made it work. This is an unusual drone job, but I'd like to show you the capacity of these drones in a very unusual situation that I did not plan on. Okay, it's only about 45 seconds. And again, I don't know what it looks like on your end. That's kind of irrelevant, just the video itself. It's done right here.
Now I do not have any sound. But
Okay, forget the sound. It's
I
just
see
music.
the video. Yes.
It's just audio. That's okay.
Yeah.
So the thing I want to point out about this video is I was hired by the California Rice Commission to do this artist and this mural, okay? So when I went down to scout, and if you're going to do drone work, you have absolutely got to scout the jobs first if possible. Several things you've got to watch out for. You've got to watch out for any kind of hindrances. Hindrances would be trees, low-lying branches, street signs, telephone poles, power wires, telephone wires. The thing that I didn't count on, however, I know downtown Sacramento very well, this was a intersection where all the light rails come in and pass, and that light rail passes within 10 feet of that wall. The client wanted drone, okay? So what did I do? I could not fly the drone without turning off all the automated features that are the safety precautions that won't allow you to crash that drone. The drone would not fly with all the safety precautions on because there was too much going on, too many street signs, too many wires, too many trees, the light rail too close going by. As it would go by, it would create this insane gust of wind and drag behind it. And I couldn't do it. So what did I do with my drone? Okay, no laughing. I handheld the drone and used it as a gimbal okay? I had to complete the job. It was the only way. Otherwise, I would have had to start all over with this client and go back and shoot it different with much more work. And anyways, it just wasn't possible. So I just had that crazy wild hair and I go, you know what? Why can't I just hold the drone without the propeller on? It's a gimbal, which I have, but I don't have it with me. And so that almost entire thing is shot with the drone with not flying in my hand as a gimbal. So I only point that out because it brings me into a point that you cannot get around. So first things first, I had to go on and Rachel, I have to bring up this point now because it's super duper relevant, okay? When you, and I'm gonna go into, I think it's here. Let's see, where is my screen? Okay, here. Okay, so when you're flying DJI, DJI is totally in bed with the government. I just want to start by saying that. That is not bad. It's extra steps you have to do if you're going to fly a DJI and be legal, which you don't have any choice, okay? These are called geozones, okay? Each geozone has these colors based on the level of restrictions that are there. Anywhere within 5 miles of any airport, okay? That doesn't have to be a commercial airport like Sacramento International Airport or like Executive Airport in Sacramento. This could be a farmer's air landing for their dust cropper. It's all officially airports. So within 5 miles of any airport or any government facility like a jail, like the Capitol, these kind of things, there are different restrictions of which once you are registered, which you have to register, okay, registration, you have to do it every few years, and it's only about $5 if I remember right.
So Bill, can I ask you on the registration piece? It's like where do I go to register? What
I have that all here for you, and
cool.
I'm going to show you all of that. So everything for registration for your Part 107 license, if you're going to make $1, you have to have the Part 107 license, is going to be done here at the FAA's website, which is all specifically for drones. So when you buy your drone, the drones have the DJI drones in their battery compartment. You're not going to be able to see this. Hiding right here on the lip of the battery compartment is your serial number, okay? When I register this drone, within 30 seconds of turning on this drone, there are upwards of 25 satellites locking onto my drone. There is no way to do it without being noticed. They know who you are. They know where you are. They know everything about you the second you're registered and this drone is registered, and you got to do it every couple of years to re-register the drone. It's kind of like renewing your driver's license every few years. And most of them are hiding in that battery compartment. And the second you turn that drone on, it locks on to as little, I've seen it, maybe 10 or 11 satellites, but upwards of 22, 25 satellites are locked onto you, and the government knows who and where you are, okay? So registration is not an option. If you get caught flying without registration, you're gonna get a big old fat fine, okay? Not worth it. I don't even know what the fine is these days, but it's hefty, okay?
So what if I don't have a DJI? Is it true for all drones?
So yes, it is. Whether you're flying recreationally, that means not making a dollar, or commercially, which means making a dollar, okay? You have to register your drone according to the federal government. It is not an option. I have friends flying in the gray area under the radar. They're gonna get hit at some point. It's not worth it. So the downside with DJI, because they are the ones that are really in bed with the federal government, with the FAA, they can shut your drone down, okay? And I've had that happen because you're in an area that you didn't get approved to fly in. So that comes back to this area of this is a DJI website, and it's called DJI Unlocking Maps, okay? This is one extra step that you need to do, whether you're flying commercially or recreationally. If once your drone is legal, that means registered with the FAA, you need to go onto this site. Now, this is a downside, but a good thing in some ways with DJI. The other brands aren't doing this. And there's part of me at times that wish I would have gone that way, because it is a little extra hassle, but it really only takes me about 15 minutes each time before a job. So I go scout the job. I happen to use this. This is by far the best app on the market today for whether you're using Apple or Android, that will give you everything from sunrise to sunset, latitude and longitude, which is required for the FAA and DJI stuff. All the way to where the sun is going to be, so you know where your shadows are, and much, much more. Really the best app on the market for anyone, any photo, video, anything, period, okay? So once you're here, you type in, I'm going to move this screen around a little bit. In this area right here, which I can partially see, you type in your address, and it takes you, that's this address right here. I put in my home address, if you can see that. And it tells me all of the restrictions that are around me. If I need to fly here, for instance, I click here and it tells me that's McClellan Airfield, okay? There are parts of it that are you're not able to fly, and there's parts of it that I can unlock. That's here. And you can see down here, if you see this on the bottom of my screen, it automatically loaded that geo zone. And now I'm going to put in my controller number, which happens to be your serial number, and I'm going to get approval, and it's going to load. The second I turn on my controller and the second I turn on the drone, and I'm at my home office here, or the other office, at the home office, and it locks into my Wi-Fi, it's going to automatically load into my controller. Then I load from the controller, I load it into the drone. That allows me to go fly in that area legally, okay?
So Bill, does it tell you if other people are flying in that area?
It does not, okay? I have not run into that problem, and I fly regularly, and I have for 5 years now. I haven't run into a problem where there's another drone pilot. Probably because of what I'm doing. I'm mostly getting hired to do residential or commercial real estate, agriculture, and industrial stuff. Most of the time I'm not at a park doing portraits or something. If you were shooting at a big park where lots of people are shooting portraits all the time, like we have a few here where there's always photographers, you're probably going to run into that. I haven't had that happen yet. So that would be something you have to take into consideration, not a problem, just something to be cautious of, which is also why I go scout the job first. I've had a few times where I told clients it's not possible to fly here. Not because I can't get it unlocked. It's just too much risk. Why am I going to risk my $3,500 investment for $300 job for a photo of a house? Not going to do it. Okay. Not worth it. They're not going to pay for it if it's, you know, there's been a few times when the wind is too high and I've got to call it off. I'm not risking it. It's too high today. So having said that, this is not a hassle. It just is an extra step. It is 15 minutes that I have to do the day of the job and load it into, or the day before, but I've got to load it into my controller. It does it automatically, and then load it into the drone or the aircraft, they call it. Or when I get to that spot, it will not take off. Okay, that's the shut you down I was talking about. So they have the ability to not allow you to get off the ground. I've had that happen about 4 times. It is the biggest, well, it's embarrassing, first of all, because you can't finish the job. You can't fix it on site with your tablet or your phone. It can only be done on a desktop, period. Or excuse me, my brain went out the door. Or a laptop. It has to be a traditional computer to make for this system to work. Cannot be on a tablet, cannot be on a cell phone. That means you cannot do it tablet, cell phone on site and get rid of the problem. You got to go somewhere with your laptop or use someone's computer and log in and do this same 10 or 15 minute thing. So I do it the night before. I make sure it's all loaded in there. The other thing that you need to take precautions on any drone, but specifically DJI, is you need to make sure that all of the updates. So once a week, I turn it all on when I'm near the computer and near the Wi-Fi. Once you've set it up, it just connects automatically. I don't have to do anything. I go through the sections where the updates are and I check to make sure it's updated. If it's not updated and I get to the job, it also may not fly because it's going to tell you there's an update that's mandatory. This is all government related. So will the government start on some of the other brands as much as they are in DJI? Eventually. It's not going to take long. I still wouldn't change from DJI, in my opinion, for the price range for professional grade, even with these extra steps that are necessary to take, whether it's for entertainment purposes or not. If you go out and you don't register your drone, you're able to fly fairly well unrestricted within reason, okay? I mean, you still can't fly over the state capitol, you're gonna go to jail, okay? But without these kind of restrictions. But I'm going to guess most of us want to make $1, have fun, and make $1 and add some benefit to our services that we can offer so that people want or need to hire us. Seems like that would be the reason you would go this way.
Bill, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're just about out of time, actually.
Holy Toledo. And I haven't even touched. How about
this? Okay.
So the reason this is critical and not avoidable, you got to know this going into it. You just have to know this. So very quickly, register your drone, whether it's entertainment purposes or whether it's commercial purposes. Okay, register your drone all on the FAA site. Secondly, the government has this app. Before you fly, download it. This is another step with the government to safeguard yourself from getting in trouble. It's free, but then it talks to the whole FAA group of people, and you're basically logging into the app saying where you're flying, how long you're going to fly, how high you're flying. It literally takes 60 seconds. It's not a big deal. It's one more step to submit yourself to what their requirements are so that you don't get yourself in trouble and you're insured to be able to fly. Very simple. Get this, okay? Let me just see it. So registration every 3 years. I'm looking at my notes just so I got it right. I think it's around $5 still. Part 107 license, somewhere in, if you take their course on the FAA site, pass the course and all that, they have things that's right around $150, and you've got to do that every 2 years to fly commercially, which means make $1. Okay. They do have licensing schools out there. They're rather expensive. Some of them look really good, but I'm not paying, $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 when I can do it myself on the FAA through the FAA site and what they have, and do it super cheap. Don't forget, if you're going to go into every drone has the government is working on geo mapping, period. Okay. So, but if you're going to go into the DJI arena, just remember, you've got to do those couple of steps in their unlocking map area that has to do with the geo map location stuff, flight restriction zones. They do have a custom unlocking. So there are jobs I'm flying every month for an entire year. That's when I do the custom unlocking, and or I go directly to their headquarters on email and get them to unlock it for a whole year for me. So those are things. Lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about what do I have in time? 30 seconds, 5 minutes? What do I have?
You have about 5 minutes, and I know I'm still dying to see some of your super cool videos too.
Okay. All right. So let's try to go back to that arena. Maybe I've geeked out too much. If I have, I apologize. I'm really fun, but I'm a real geek and dork, really, when it comes to technical stuff. So if I bore people, I'm sorry.
I just want to excite them and see what's possible.
All right. So I want to show you something that is, I think, was a fun job. This is up in the Auburn area. And I'm just going to play it. I may not play the whole thing. It's like a minute and a half. Most of the videos end up being somewhere between 60 and 90 seconds. If you can't hear the music, it's unfortunate. I'm going to talk while you're watching. So that was a still image provided for me. This building coming up on the Bear River was what the job was for. This happens to be a 720p quality, I think. So I can't remember. I think it's 720. So the size or quality. Watch what happens here. This was organic. I wish I planned this right here. Okay. You couldn't have planned that if you wanted to. So where did that come in handy? Well, the newer drones let you do 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, so I could slow it way down. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. The whole thing had to do with this property, the stature of this property, and the building project that's going on in this property, all based around the Bear River, okay? It was all drone. With the exception of that intro, I had to use, and by the way, I couldn't pick time of day. I don't always get the option of time of day. Sometimes clients tell me when I have to show up. Thus, you have this really contrasty video. It is what it is, as long as I educate them on what's necessary. This is called a God's eye view, very popular for real estate. I do this almost on every job without fail. It's called God's eye view. So this particular one is called Rincon del Rio, which has to do with this Bear River, which means bend of the river. And I get to do some fun projects, not always super creative. I wish I could say that everything I do gets to be real creative. It's not always creative. Most of the stuff I'm doing, for instance, again, I'm not going to play the whole thing, is this happened to be a little bit more fun. I didn't have any rules on this one. Again, I won't play the whole thing. It's a minute long. So this particular one, I wish you could hear the music because it's intense. This was for Campbell's, the tomato growers for Campbell's soup, okay? This happens to be a technical thing that is based around their cropping season, in which they're testing. These are all the science type people, and they're testing the crops. That's these little piles. And I got to just do something fun without any rules. I'm going to speed it up towards the end so that you can see the ending. And it kind of ends pulling away. And it begins zooming in, going around, showing the details, and zooming away. Once in a while, I get a no rules bar, do whatever you want. But most of the time, I'm going to show you one last one here. Let's see. It's got to be short. And they're all a little bit long. So I think, let me see what this one is. Give me a second. Problem is when I get so many of them. Let me see what this is. Oh yeah, fine. Okay, most of these, this is the kind of work, at least half of what I get hired to do. This was a job for this Rogers billboard company to sell the billboard showing its position to the freeways and its visibility. You can see I slowed it down here. I'm going to stop it. So this job was in Central California for this billboard company. I had a series of their billboards to do. Is it super creative? No, but it, you know, is an $800 job plus expenses to film billboards to show their position to the freeway for visibility. So super creative? No, absolutely not. But I like to eat and I hate top ramen. Okay, so it pays the bills and I get to do what I get to fly a drone and get paid for it, for Pete's sakes. It was great. Most of the jobs aren't that. If I can have a few seconds here, I'd like to show you this shot of a combined image. Again, not that it's super creative. It's not even a great time of day, but I want to show you what's possible. Okay. This particular shot, I'm going to move faces out of the way. This was a shot for a project in West Sacramento, obviously where it's at behind the Ziggurat and behind Cal Stirs. This happens to be 3 frames put together in Photoshop in the panoramic mode, which gave me a massive image able to do much bigger. This is possible. I'm doing a lot more of this because it's giving me bigger images these days. So I think with that, yeah, I have a lot of things that I could cover. Again, if we're out of time, we're out of time. I talk too much. Let me get back to your faces, which are here. Okay, let's see. Can we
I
go
do
up
have a
there?
question, Bill. Somebody's
Yes.
asking, why don't you use the FAA sectionals and adhere to the control zones found where you are shooting?
Oh,
I don't know how.
so let me explain that. Sorry, that's actually a very relevant question. So if I'm in a zone that I have to unlock, I got to look at the camera. Sorry. If I'm in a zone that I have to unlock, okay, if DJI unlocks me and the Before You Fly app says you're good to go, I'm good to go in that arena. It's a shortcut using the FAA Before You Fly app. Now, there are times when I have to fly in an air zone that is in a, let's say, commercial airline zone, okay? Whether it's, let's just say Sacramento International Airport. I actually have to call the flight control tower and get approval to fly on top of all of that. I really don't have those kind of jobs. I had to do that one time with Sacramento Executive Airport over there when I was flying for that Citibank commercial real estate job. Most of the time that doesn't have to happen. As long as I get approval through DJI's unlocking map and I get approval on Before You Fly, and I'm telling the government where I'm flying, when, how high I'm flying, and how long I'm flying, then I'm good to go. So there are times that you do have to take that extra step, but not all the time. That's, in my opinion, what I have found over the last 5 years so that I'm not in trouble and that I'm legal to fly at that particular time. So very good question. Use the Before You Fly. That is an FAA approved app for flying.
Okay,
So did that answer the question, I hope?
I hope so. I don't see a follow-up in the chat. So let me ask anybody else, any questions for Bill?
Sorry if I talk fast and kind of, just abruptly to the point, kind of.
No, that's okay. We can provide your contact information. People do have questions.
I think the basis of what I hit, though, when it comes to buying the drone, what technical geeky stuff to consider about the drone, the types of work that are out there about what you might kind of make on the drone stuff, what you need to do with the FAA registering and the Part 107, the geo zones and the unlocking. The reality is that is, in a nutshell, the main things you need to consider with the drone so that you can fly safely, fly legally without getting in trouble, and produce a good quality product. If you can kind of stay in that little box and then, wiggle wherever you need to, that's really the gist of my presentation, is that arena. I think I covered most of it. Sorry if it's too quick. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. All right.
I have a slight intensity to me. I apologize. I'm a little bit intense.
So there's one last question, then we'll
Okay.
stop. I said David Wong is asking, how about a 48 megapixel DNG camera with a 1/2-inch sensor? Is that any good?
I don't know. So David, I'd like to say I don't know without doing research on it.
Okay.
I will say, from what I have experienced in digital, whether it's your still photo camera, mirrorless, whatever, your drone, sensor size is king. And then everything else comes into play, megapixels. Sensor size is king. The bigger the sensor, the better it's going to do in low light. And we already know from whether you're looking at it from a chiaroscuro aspect or emotional, dramatic photography or videos, sensor size is king when you want to shoot in low light, period. Okay. Megapixel comes in next.
Okay. Well, let me say thank you, Bill. Again, thank you for agreeing to present to us. Thank you for your flexibility too. And when we had to reschedule because of the power outages up our way. And so we really appreciate you being with us tonight.
So if I could say one thing to all of you, I'm very intrigued by your group. I don't really have a mother group, if you would, right now, a home group right now. I would like to. Life has made it more ability to do that now. Having said that, your group is very, very enticing to me, meaning what I see you guys are as a whole from your website and all of you. And if you could give me, if you want to, feedback on, hey, you're too intense, or hey, you talk too fast, drink less coffee, you know, whatever it is. I like to present whatever I have and share, but I want to be able to give it to you how you want it, if there's a next time. So if you want to give me feedback, you can't hurt my feelings. You cannot. I got really thick skin. Okay. That would help me and maybe help you if you guys have me on any other thing in the future. Okay.
Okay. I appreciate your openness. So,
Okay.
All right. So with that, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Do I get to stick around for whatever's happening?
You
or am I
can stay
done?
for as long as you want. So what we're going to do right now is take about a 5-minute break. Everybody stand up, stretch your legs. In my case, get another glass of wine. And then we'll be back to do the critique for the second half of tonight's meeting. So please stay, Bill, if you can.
Will that allow me to see the work?
Yes. Well,
That's
I'll
what I
be
want. I
muted
want to
and
see
we'll
the
listen
work.
to the judges, but you can absolutely see we have some fantastic work in our club. So
I have
please
no
stay.
doubt. Yeah, I really want to see. Thank you. I'll
All
come
right.
back in 5 minutes.
And Rachel, don't forget that I need to do September winners.
Oh, you do. I should write that. Okay. When we come back, you'll do the September winners, then we'll do critique.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
So,
At
5 minutes?
7:45, we'll kick back off.
Okay, 7:45.
Okay. All right. See everybody in a minute.
Break time.
Come on, girl. Probably hungry, aren't you? Huh? Hungry? Okay, girl, come on. Let's go. We got 5 minutes. Let's go downstairs.
Georges, can you hear me? It's David.
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, David?
I'm very well, thank you. I wanted to ask, you don't have a website for your photos?
I I have one, but I have not updated it for use. So it's not really very active.
The reason I ask is I'm on the curatorial committee for Viewpoint in Sacramento. Yeah. And I like your work, and I was wondering if you would want to consider applying for some of our open exhibit sessions. But you know, in order to do that, because I think you expressed some interest before of doing some of these types of things, and if you want to do that, we need to be able to see your work. So yeah. I don't know if you're interested still.
I am interested. I don't have much printed.
Well, I don't think you don't actually need to have it printed. I mean, yes, you do when it comes time for exhibits, but like Rachel did with her application for exhibits, it's all digital files that they're looking for. But I don't know if you're interested. There are several openings next year that I thought, since we had talked a little bit about it, you might be interested, and we can take this conversation offline and talk about it later on if you'd like.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do
Great.
that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So David, is your reception this coming Friday?
Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah, my reception is the 13th and 14th of November.
Okay.
The exhibit goes up on November 8th, which is a Sunday. The viewpoint is closed on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The normal hours now are only Thursday through Saturday, noon to 5. But we have the very first open to the public receptions now since COVID are going to be the receptions of Friday night, November 13th from 5 to 7. The gallery is open from noon to 5, and then we are going to have an open reception, artist reception from 5 to 7 on Friday night, and Saturday night is it's also open reception, but that's second Saturdays.
Are they still
5 to
doing second
7.
Saturday? Are they still?
They
opening those up?
still, but there's not a lot of activity going
Okay.
on in the town. Your reception will be the same thing. It
Okay.
will be the Friday after your exhibit goes up,
Okay.
which your exhibit goes up on the, I don't
Fifth?
have
I
the
think
5th,
it's January 5th.
but the Friday after that, I think it's the 8th or 9th or something like that, you will have
Okay.
a artist reception from 5 to 7 on that Friday evening.
All
And
right.
there is the second Saturday, what they call the second Saturday reception from 5 to 7 on Saturday. So it's the same thing for you. And
Okay.
and we're going to limit it to 10 people in the gallery at any one time. So the idea is there will be seats outside in the entry area. And as you know, we're not getting tons of people now with everything going on. So I think that we're thinking that it won't be hard to limit the people to 10 in the gallery at any one time. And you should be prepared, though, on Friday, the artist reception, there will be time allotted for you to speak, for 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. And it's good because when we had non-COVID open the non-COVID
Okay.
receptions, we'd have as many as 50 or 60 people in the gallery, and they want to know about your work.
Gotcha.
And so this is an attempt to get back some of that we have lost during the COVID period by limiting it to 10 people with masks at a time. And so what'll probably happen is, instead of having, 5 or 10 minutes to talk to a group of 50, you'll maybe talk for a few minutes, and people will get a chance to interact and ask you questions and whatnot on Friday, especially. Saturday is not mandatory, but and Friday's not mandatory for you to be there either.
Yeah,
but
you'll be
you should
there.
be, but you should be there.
I'll come down.
People want to know, and because
Yeah.
they're publicizing all your work.
Right.
So Friday and Saturday, I think it's for you, the 8th and 9th, whatever that first Friday is, and the second Saturday of the month.
Okay.
That's
all right.
The time frame.
Well, I will see you then, though.
All right.
Are we ready to get going?
Yep, I think so.
All right. Real quick before I do, those of you who are teaching at the workshop, any more amendments to the flyer before I send it out? Or is it the latest thing I sent out? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Will do. All right, September winners. Welcome back, everybody. This is September winners, not October winners. October winners is the ones that we just voted on, right? Right. Okay, in the abstract category, the winner is Rachel Rosenthal for Copperopolis. In the oh, let me put up the website. That would be nice so you could actually see, huh? Okay, sorry about that. I will. All right, talk among yourselves. All right. And then I will, okay, I'm going to share now. Share my screen, okay. All right, you see it? Rachel, you see it?
Let me unmute. Yes, I do see
I
it.
see it.
Oh, okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay, architecture. So this is Best Abstract Copperopolis, and that's Rachel Rosenthal. Architecture, A Trio in Mexico by Margaret Spears. Very pretty.
Yeah.
Fauna is Crane Beauty by Janice Rossner. Flora, Drummond Street Sunflower by Mike Shea. How cool is that, Mike? Looks like high key. In Natural Landscape, We Are Still Alive, September 8th, 2020 by John Sievert. Yes, we are. Night Photography, Sleeping Under the Stars by Eric Engels. Beautiful. Photojournalism, California Burning by Jay Schuff. There's that sky again. We don't want to see that. Travel, Medieval Foie by Tom Quinn. Creative, Anything Goes, The Plume by Ellen Davis. We don't want to see that either again, Ellen. Black and White Other. There's actually a tie here. It's a tie between Eric Engels, Utah Bristlecone, and Into the Light by Tom Quinn. And lastly, Color Other, Moonset at Sunrise by Rick Eschliman. Congratulations to everybody this month. It was quite a beautiful group of photos. Back to you, Rachel.
Okay. All right, so folks, we're up. Now it's time for the critique. And so huge thank you. Our judges tonight are going to be Dave McClellan and Peter Mason. So
don't forget to unmute, gentlemen.
Oh, yes, please unmute. So huge thank you to them for the work that it takes to put into judging. So tonight, as I said, we have 55 images in 14 categories. I have downloaded these into a PowerPoint, and what I'm going to do is share my screen with everybody, and the photos will automatically forward with 60 seconds for each image. At about 50 seconds, you'll see in the lower left-hand corner a little red 10 seconds, which is just a warning for the judges. So just so you know. Okay, and so the idea is I will say the title of the image. One of the judges will give their critique, and then I will say the name of the artist. That's how it works. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you guys see my PowerPoint there?
Yes, we do.
All right, so bear with me. Okay, our first category for the night, and every time we do this, is assigned subject, with which tonight the assigned subject is balance. This is yoga balancing Golden Gate Bridge.
All right, I'm going to start out categories as we go through the evening tonight. And so, one thing is to remember that the critique is only our personal opinions and ideas, and we all participate in the image critiques to learn new ways to see and think and get new ideas to develop our craft as artists. And yes, tonight's assigned subject is balance, and right off the bat, we're starting with exactly that. And I'm hoping the photographer knows this person and is inspired by him every day. Compositionally, the dark clothes and diagonal line of the man's body, bisecting the image, immediately draw my eyes to the subject, know what the story is. And the bonus is perfect placement of his feet in the space between the cables on the bridge, and also including the balancing act of the world's most famous suspension bridge just adds to the story with a dramatic sense of place. And thank you to the photographer for including the, whoops, we jumped images. There we go. I really like that the tops of the towers and the front and the back of the bridge are also included in the image, giving it a real sense of place. And one thing that I might think as an idea is to bring down the brightness in the sky, which will also enhance the drama. There are clouds in the sky that you could probably bring out a little bit as well. Next one.
Artist was Shelby Cohen. This is Balance Pine Stump.
And this one is a nice capture of the action. And it's nice to have the focus only sharp on the subject, which is the pine stump, balanced in the claw of the machine. The trees around it are also kind of framing the action, and it's framing the stump right on the third line intersection, and then all the angles of the machine keep my eye moving around the action and back to the stump. And it's nice to have captured the face of the operator as he definitely maneuvers on his way to somewhere. The drama of not knowing where he's going kind of adds a little tension, which is kind of cool. And good job on panning the camera to show the feeling of motion and the blur of the movement, and then keeping your subject sharp on the stump. Only critique might be in the middle, the background is a little bright, maybe bring that down. Otherwise, it's a good image.
The artist is Jeff Allstatter. This is Horse Splits.
All right, this is another good story of balance. You've created good intense focus of the rider as well as the horse, a good sense of motion and movement with the hair and the horse's mane being kind of caught in the wind. And only wish there could be a little more breathing room beneath the horse's feet, but well done.
The artist is Ed Sylvester. This is Hanging in the Balance.
I'm sorry if I'm waiting a little longer than I have really low bandwidth, so it takes a while for the images to come up, possibly. It still has not come up.
Oh,
there
wow.
we go. And this is another good capture of rodeo action. And the subject was caught at the peak of the leap, and the rider is with the rider at the brink of being thrown off, or is he going to hang on? We just don't know. It would be nice to see a little more light to bring out the detail on the horse. So maybe when facing another opportunity like this in the future, check where the sun is and try to position yourself for the best overall light falling on your intended subject. Like those guys shooting in the back may have gotten a little more sun on the horse itself. Otherwise, good shot.
The artist is Lori Woodhall. This is Balanced Sweet Light in Marin.
All right, Sweet Lightning. And this is a different kind of balance. This is more of a compositional balance, the placement of light and dark, and the angle of the dark line of the trees and the brown cow and the upper dark corner add a sense of weight that sits just right in the fields of gold. It just feels good. The subject, Sweet Lightning, is nicely in focus along with the grasses in the foreground, and that anchors him or her and places it in the scene. The soft blur in the background adds a nice sense of depth, and an idea might be to play bringing down the brightness on the hill on the top left and maybe the lower edge, and then maybe try to boost the shadow slider with the brush to bring out a little bit more detail in Sweet Lightning's coat. Next, we'll move to abstract.
All right, so the artist on this one was Shelby Cohen. He's exactly right. Our next category is abstracts. And our first image in this category is called Sand and Water.
There we go. And this is a fossil record of ancient wraith-like creatures. There it goes, kind of nice and bright there. The title tells us that it's path of water through sand, but my imagination sees more. It's a really cool design, no matter how your imagination sees it. I like all the angles leading from left to right and the balance of dark and light. The contrast is good with deep blacks, and there's a ton of texture as well. The subtle curves keep my eyes in motion, following through. I might try to add a little bit of shadow vignette around the outside, just to keep my eye from following off of the edge.
The artist is Craig Rorson. This one is Cambria Cypress Reflection.
There was a question in the comment, but I didn't see it. Was that from Bill?
I cannot see the comments at the moment.
Okay. Still waiting for the next image to come up for me.
Okay.
Right, this is an interesting use of abstract versus reality. Okay, the dark lines almost have a feeling of familiar, and the sunset colors set off the sharp details, adding a feeling of softness. The glare reflections, they're kind of gold in there, add a nice balance to even out the darks versus the lights. And then finally, the purple siding on the edges give you a surprise that holds it all together in a nice familiar frame. I wouldn't change a thing.
The artist.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say the next categories Peter is going to take over.
Gotcha. Okay. The artist for this image is Jeff Allstatter. And you are correct. Our next category is architecture. And our first image is Mare Island Shadows.
This is a really wonderful study in texture and line and the shadows that are created by the railing. I like the light play on the vertical lines in the building, and also the different colors playing off each other, the bluish color and the orange color. I think it's very well done.
The artist is Bernadette Sylvester. Next image is Trinity College, Dublin.
This is a wonderful sky, and a difficult location. There's lots of obstacles and lots of tourists. Architecture can be really challenging, and especially when you're shooting with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, maintaining a natural perspective and keeping the vertical straight can be challenging. This was shot with a wide angle lens, and as the camera is tilted up, you'll notice that the building is kind of tipping backwards a little bit. So I took the liberty to demonstrate some slight changes that can be made in Photoshop. Let's go to the next image first.
I'm hitting forward. I am hitting forward.
Oh, it's fading in and out. That's not going to work very well.
Oh.
So basically, I did a very slight rotation to straighten the columns on the building behind the tower, and go to the next one.
No, we've gone too far. This is the last one. It must be in the series, Peter.
Oh, heavens.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So we only got 2 pictures then, right?
Well, there were all 4 are in the series, but I'm unsure as to what's okay. This should
They
be,
were subtle changes and you went past them because it's hard to
I think
control
so.
forward.
I see. Okay. So go to the next one then.
Go forward to the,
Yeah.
This is the 3rd one.
So anyway, in order to straighten the building in Photoshop, you can do a free transform. And I basically grabbed the edges, the top edges of the image, and stretched them about 2.5 degrees outward. And that tends to straighten those verticals. And if you've shot the image wide enough, it gives you the extra room to be able to manipulate it. And this is the same kind of thing that would have been done in a view camera in the film days. But otherwise, a really excellent capture of a difficult location with all the obstacles that you have to work with. Go ahead.
The artist was Jerry Thomas. Okay, this is Capturing Columbia.
This is a very interesting architectural image because it's from a quite unusual angle. We have a lot of verticals. I especially like the vertical paint drips or water drips or whatever in the surface that's in the foreground, and it kind of mimics the fence there and all of the uprights in this image. It is kind of an odd angle to be looking up like this, and again we have a similar sort of tipping backwards of the image. So go ahead to the next one. See if we can make it. So this was an attempt at, again, just trying to straighten the verticals. It wasn't exactly completely successful. Again, this was adjusted in Photoshop, and we lost one of the chimneys on the left side because it was a much tighter shot to begin with. But I wanted to just sort of demonstrate trying to bring back some of the more true to form appearance based on doing a slight manipulation in Photoshop to try to correct for the distortion in the lens. But it's a really wonderful image because it's not something that you would normally see from this angle.
The artist was Lori Woodhall. This is Chaco Rooms.
This is a wonderful rendition of an image that I'm sure many of us have seen before. And I think that you did an excellent job of capturing the light. And of course, the receding doors is just a a wonderful image. And having the wood in the ceiling, the beams sticking out there, perfectly centered in that door, just adds to the symmetry of the whole image. Great image.
Artist was Tom Quinn. And that completes architecture. Our next category is fauna. And our first image is Canyon Bighorn.
Well, this photographer was at the right place at the right time. I especially like the alignment of the horns on the head with the rocks behind. I thought you took the image at a really opportune moment to get that alignment so that the head really is placed well. We can see that the eye is sharp, and it's really a fine record of this animal in the wild. I wonder if you intended to treat this as a portrait. I would think that it might be a different presentation if you added a vignette around the edge to draw our eyes into the subject and try to downplay some of the distraction behind the animal. But that would be if you were presenting it as a portrait rather than as a documentary record. Nice capture.
The artist is Brian Dunbar. This is Bundle of Pelican.
This is a marvelous capture and certainly a different view of this bird. And it's just all about texture. The texture in the bird, the texture in the rock, the texture in the water. It was obviously a slow shutter speed. The water looks like it's blurred somewhat. And I think you did a great job. All of the texture and the detail is there, and excellent shot.
The artist is Eleni Prusa. This one is titled Finch.
So I love the stare of this bird. This bird is just giving you the eye. It's wonderful. And you were lucky to get a beautiful catch light in the bird's eye. And the light separating the bird from the soft background is just gorgeous. And then, of course, the textures of the feathers and the beautiful light that gives us all of the detail in the feathers. It's just absolutely wonderful. It would be great if we could have seen the bird's feet and all of the tail, but I can sort of understand how this kind of composition is challenging because this bird may not have stayed there very long. I think that there could have been a little more negative space on the right side to balance the negative space on the left side, so that we could feel more like where the bird was looking. I think that would have helped. And possibly crop off some of the added space on the left side to pull us over into the image. I think it's a good image, though.
All right, the artist is Sheila Ryan Weintraub. This is Snow Geese Blast Off.
Well, this could have certainly been in the abstract category as well. What a wonderful abstract. I love the idea that it's a fauna picture, but it's also an abstract of really the highest order. I find it very engaging, especially that you were fortunate to have a couple of the birds really show up as darker. It gives you something else to look at. The texture of it is just wonderful. And your choice of shutter speed was really well thought out. It's really a quite a successful picture. I'd love to have it on my wall.
The artist was Janice Rosner. This next one is Icelandic ponies.
When I first looked at this image, I thought, now there's a pair of old souls. The square format works. The frame feels a tiny bit tight. Maybe more space on the left side would have helped, so we could feel more like where they were going. I noticed it looks a little bit soft and out of focus, and I'm wondering if the ponies were in motion when you shot this. It's a tricky thing if they were moving along at any speed. Otherwise, it's a good photo.
Right. The artist is Jerry Thomas. And that concludes fauna. Our next category is flora. And our first image is changing of the seasons.
This is a really nicely done image as well. Being a mountain person, it feels like home to me. My eyes were really immediately drawn to the bright ice droplets, and then found the beautifully focused cone and needle clusters. Cone is well placed at the third line intersection, and the complementary colors of the orange against the green add a nice feeling of warmth despite the chilly subject matter. The blurred background helps separate the distance behind, and I might just play with bringing down the brightness on the background just a little to see if that adds even more depth.
All right. The artist is Anne Westling. This is titled Delicate Dangle.
I really like this image, excuse me. It feels really soft and yet is filled with sharp detail. The interesting transition from the dark side to the light side adds some tension that gets resolved when you discover the intricate details of the contrasting orange seeds and their dangle in the light. The perfectly placed bright background adds a translucence to the seeds, and the out of focus bouquet circles remove any distractions from behind. The corners are well balanced with enough vignette to keep my eyes from leaving, and the leading line of the stem always brings me back to the prize on that third side left, our third line on the left side there. This image needs to be framed and displayed.
The artist is Kathy Triolo. And that concludes flora. Our next group is natural landscape. And the first image is morning at Nankoweap.
There's a lot to discover in this image. I first followed the river in from the left and followed it down into the canyon, way down until it disappears in the distance as a tiny vanishing point. The red lines of the cliff layers are balanced by the blue sky and the river. And then I followed the path up from the cliff, up the river to where the photographer is standing, and discovered the cliff dwellings. And it suddenly became more than just a beautiful landscape. It became about history, imagining a time when ancient peoples lived and thrived here. This is a well-balanced image with shapes, well placed to guide you through the distance and then to surprise you with the details. You might play a little bit with the brightness of the sky to bring it down just a touch, maybe just enough to boost the overall contrast just a bit as well.
The artist is Brian Dunbar. This next one is Inland Passage, Alaska.
This one feels like a calendar page to me, just being in the perfect place at the perfect time. The light is beautiful and the mist adds so much drama. My eyes are drawn through the mist-shrouded opening in the middle, wondering what mysteries lie around the corner. I really like the foreground anchor of the spit of grasses going all the way across and on a third line as well. The detail interest of the dark weight of the stump helps define the depth as my eyes move toward the mysterious door in the middle. And I might play with cropping just a little off the bottom and maybe just along where the foreground ripples are kind of bright just up from the bottom, and then maybe take a little bit off the top, leaving a little bit of the darkness over that bright spot in the sky. It wouldn't take away anything of important subject detail, but it would bring me in just a little bit closer.
The artist is Ingrid Lockhart. Next one is Vermont Ricker Pond.
And this one is another calendar page. It's just beautiful. I like the feeling of softness that the image conveys. The pastel colors give it a feeling of a painting. And again, the complementary colors of the oranges against the blues. Wondering what you might think about cropping an alternative version of this as a square, since all the interest is on the right side. Maybe take it right down the middle and have that island be your main subject with its reflection right there.
The artist is Henry Goodman. This is Carson Valley Range.
And this is a nice fall pastoral image. It quiets my mind. I like the shades of yellows and green in nice bands layering up from bottom to the top. And that to me is the subject. The shapes are what really kind of stands out in this. There are also details of interest if you look closely with the trees and the cows. And in this one, it's like the trees are more of a border than a subject. And a slight edit, if there's room in the original, or maybe for the next composition, would be to allow a little more space above and below the trees so that they're more balanced weight-wise with the other layers of color.
Right, the artist was Sheila Ryan Weintraub. This is Sierra Butte's Thunderstorm.
This is a very striking black and white image. The foreground is sharp and strong, and there is some detail lost in the shadow under the cloud, but that just enforces the drama of the passing storm. And of course, the star of the image is the falling rain sweeping across the mountains. Well done.
The artist was Peter Mason. Next one is Smoky Sunset at North Lake, 2020 Creek Fire.
Sorry, my bandwidth is really slow. It hasn't come up yet.
That's okay. Yeah.
Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Rachel is, there we go. Okay. Yeah. All right, this one was well planned, timed, and executed, catching the sun perfectly at setting. And the orange light through the smoke enhanced the saturation of the yellows, oranges, and reds in the leaves. And the high clouds just above the sun reflected even more of the golden light into the scene. My only idea would be to maybe, if you see in the bottom right corner there, there's a little piece of a sandbar that's kind of bright. Maybe just darken that down a little bit. Otherwise, very nice image.
The artist is George Pelpel. This next one is titled North Lake Aspen Reflection.
All right. Another nice Eastern Sierra fall colors shot. You guys that were lucky enough to be able to take that trip. The softness of the warm colored leaves contrasts well against the rugged backdrop of the mountains. The focus is nice and sharp throughout, and the reflection mirrors the scene really nicely. My only idea on this one, since the light is so different on the left and the right, is maybe crop off the left half and just have it bead with the mountains in the kind of this middle to the right and the reflection there. But there is interest in the left side as well. So possibly make a whole nother image that would work with that as its own image.
All right, the artist was John Siebert. This is Desert Dawn.
A nice comment on that one. Infrared would be really interesting, Bill. Okay, so my thoughts was do we need to start making a camera club calendar to sell at SPD? An awful lot of nice, really nice shots. The dawn light in this one filtered through the smoky haze in the east gives the rocks a nice warm glow, and the needles of the cactus catch that light as well. Kind of nice little backlight on those. I like the weight of the boulder pile, how on the left it balances with the ridge on the right and kind of gives our eye a nice arc that leads your eye from the left side over to the right side and then out that far ridge. And the brightness of the sunrise on the left kind of takes your eye back around and you kind of loop back into the middle. Only wish would be to maybe see the bottoms of the plants in the foreground. There may have been some distractions. I did see another version of this on Facebook today that did show a little bit more of the bottom of the plants, and it was a little bit wider, stretched out. Very nice image.
The artist is Eric Ingalls. And that completes our natural landscape category, and we move to night photography. And the first image is Gazing at Heaven.
Well, this rock is quite a striking subject. It's to me, it looks like it could be ice or it could be quartz. It's really hard to tell, but it's obviously by the sea. And the heart of the Milky Way adds to the drama, and having that pair of planets there is really well placed. And I like the whole celestial interest that is in the photo as well. The overall sky to me feels a tiny bit washed out, and I wonder if more contrast is needed. The light behind the rock is kind of curious, and it's kind of an interesting thing. I have no idea what that could be. If that's the ocean, are we looking west? Are we looking north? Are we looking towards the city? It's a curious thing in the image. The brightness of the heart of the Milky Way and the top of the rock are similar to my eye. So I'm not quite sure which one the artist intended to be more important. So I would suggest maybe experimenting with shifting the brightness between these two areas to see which leads to more impact in the image. Beautiful image though.
Okay, artist is Rachel Rosenthal. This next one is Light Play at the Eureka Dunes.
Well, this is quite a unique image with the Milky Way and then the person in the foreground with the light, and of course having the additional light that's giving us all this wonderful texture across the surface of the sand. It's a beautiful capture of the Milky Way, and the exposure on the person is well done as well. The only thing I noticed is my eye tended to want to be pulled over to the left side, the left corner seemed a little bit bright, and maybe a slight vignetting of that corner would help pull our eye back into the image and into the overall subject. But a beautiful image.
Artist is George Pelpel. This is Hoodoos at Night.
This is another excellent rendition of the Milky Way, and the color contrast in the hoodoos in the foreground is really wonderful against the blue and the orange of the hoodoos. And this whole scene is somewhat mysterious. And my only thought was that there seems to be a little bit more space on the left side than probably is necessary. I love the shape of the foreground hoodoo. It looks kind of like a face facing into the Milky Way. And I think that would be much stronger if there was a little bit less negative space behind that hoodoo. Otherwise, great image.
Artist is Eric, excuse me, Eric Ingalls. That completes night photography. Excuse me. Our next category is people. And our first image is titled Tea. Anyone?
This is a wonderful travel portrait of this man with a very friendly smile. His eyes sparkle, and the photographer caught him in a nice Rembrandt style lighting. The focus is sharp on his face and eyes, which is critical. The fact that the teacup is out of focus is not so important to me, although the title suggests it should be. The balance of the light between the subject's face and the teacup and the bright china in the background could be improved, possibly by a vignette to darken and focus our attention on his face.
Okay, all right. The artist is Jay Schuff. Our next image is titled Happy Halloween.
This portrait brings many visual elements together, set against a geometrical wall, and which is a neutral color, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful background to set this against. The costume includes all of these circular shapes and jagged shapes. And then, of course, there's the extra faces that populate it. It's quite a wonderful, wonderful costume. The lighting appears to be uniform with little shadows. So it was probably overcast, which works well with this dramatic subject. I feel that the composition as a formal portrait was well captured, and there are the catch lights in the eyes, which we can just barely see in this on the Zoom rendition, but they're there. I believe that there's more detail that we're not seeing in this presentation that could be brought out, assuming the original capture is a raw file. The black costume is without texture. and the separation between the legs is missing. If you watch the histogram, you might see that the balance of the image, where the lights and the darks are, you might even raise the exposure and recover some of these areas that are completely lost, and then take and bring the highlights down because you've raised the exposure. So you might play with trying to bring back some of that detail in those areas. But it's an excellent portrait.
The artist is Bernadette Sylvester. Next image is Springtime Beauty.
This is an engaging portrait of this young woman with the flowers in her hair. The photographer used the shallow depth of field to lock our eyes onto the subject and to lessen the distracting jumble of grasses surrounding the head. I looked at this image for a time and began to wonder if the placement of the subject's eyes, which seemed to be centered left to right, was causing me some discomfort. I also wondered if the subject's head had been resting on something like a tiny pillow to raise it up slightly out of the foreground. Would that have improved the composition? Finally, I brought the image into Photoshop to see how a slightly different crop would look. Let's go to the next photo. Yep, we missed one again.
Well, let me go back.
Darn.
I'm sorry. They were there. I promise you. Okay, I'm going to go forward. This is the first one.
Right. Nope.
I don't know, Peter. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. Well, I intended to use this as the third photo, but to just basically show how in Photoshop, when I was making the slight adjustment, I noticed that the rule of thirds was because of the graticule that was turned on. Her eyes just sort of fit into the rule of thirds when I made this crop. And that was just something I was going to share with the photographer. But I think this is a stronger image. The amount of extra hair and things around it, I think were not really necessary for that gaze that is really strong. So it's a wonderful image.
The artist is Anna Woodhall. They're out of order.
There it is.
Okay, my apologies to Anna and Peter.
There's the edited one.
There is the edited version.
Oh, gosh. Well, this is hard to do in Zoom too, because it's so slow.
So sorry, everybody. So
Go
that
ahead.
completes people. Our next category is travel. And our first image in this category is titled Silk Road.
Well, there's much to enjoy in this image. The dramatic contrast of the background with the patterns in the rock, all converging toward the camels in the foreground. The silhouette of the camels with the bright sand perfectly offset by the bright shadow overhead. I like that we see the color of the riders' shirts, one red and one purple, sort of like bookends. On the left edge, a bush pokes in, which is distracting. Maybe crop that out or even clone it out. Just on the edge, not the whole bush, but there's just a little thing poking in there that kind of drags your eye out of the picture. In the foreground, the sand is slightly brighter in the center and leads us out of the image. Maybe darken that part of the bottom of the frame ever so slightly to keep us in the frame. This is a beautiful image.
The artist is Jay Schuff. And that completes our travel for this month. Our next category is creative, anything goes. And our first image is titled Stairway to.
Right. And I'll quote, there's a lady who knows all that glitters is gold and she's buying a stairway too. And so I guess it's fair to assume there's another stairway heading in the alternative direction. And I like this one just as it is, but I kind of went around and around thinking about what could be worked at here. And at first I thought about maybe having the figure be several steps down, and so that she's a little bit closer and you can see the detail in her mask and her costume, and then it might separate her from the flames a little bit. But then I realized that if she was further down, the steps would bisect her head, which would possibly be a distraction. And so then I thought about maybe moving the photographer up closer, and trying that with maybe getting a little more of the ceiling that would open up some of these great triangles that are kind of holding your eye right into the center of the subject there. And maybe separate her, a little more flames on top, and separate her from the flames as well. But all in all, this is one of those fun photo shoots where you really get to work on some really fun ideas and just let your imagination go wild. Really great shot though. And I like, ultimately, I ended up liking that there were way more steps down below. Gives you more of the sense of which direction you're heading.
The artist is Mike Shea. This next image is Pioneer Basin Sunrise.
And this is a beautiful natural landscape, or it appears to be natural. The creative category is usually more about manipulation and making an image more or less than it might appear. You can look in the club's website for detailed descriptions of each of the submission categories. But maybe this has been edited in ways that are not so obvious. As a landscape, it's really nice. The light on the mountains and on the forest is spectacular, and the clouds add great drama. The foreground grasses are sharp and add a nice anchor to the scene. Only idea would be to see what happens if you bring reflection down a little bit. It's a little bit brighter than the main scene on the upper half, and they balance that out just a little bit. Overall, though, beautiful landscape.
The artist is Janice Rosner. This is entitled, Yes, the Rainbow is Real.
And this is another image that might be better in another category, especially if the rainbow is indeed real, maybe in people or travel. And not sure what might have been manipulated as far as creative is concerned, unless it is a composite, and in that case, well done. It's a great capture of a moment at a spectacular waterfall, and good timing to catch an expressive gesture by the person pointing. Always a good thing to watch for. And capturing the rainbow arcing across the water, got that too. Might be able to work with the color sliders and the contrast a little bit, and maybe bring the rainbow out a little bit more, maybe by darkening down the brights of the water and the bright rock in the foreground.
Right, the artist is Anna Woodhall. This is entitled The New Normal for COVID Cars.
Yeah, fun treatment of what we see driving every day now. Adding the dice was well done, floating there in space, and fits just right in the image. And the snake eyes is another brilliant touch. Might try a little bit of a vignette on the sides to kind of hold your eye into the middle, but it also works just as it is.
The artist is David Wong. This one's entitled Man Jumping in the Moon.
Fantastic composition. All the parts are well placed composition wise. And the body shape of the jumper tells a story about the joy of jumping in the moon. And bonus points for including the reflection of the man in the reflection of the moon. You might want to think about submitting this one to the Mono Lake Calendar Committee. That's probably really fun putting this one together.
The artist is Kathy Triolo. This one's titled The Chair.
An interesting idea for the creative category, since it looks like an actual photo. Might have been better suited for the color category. But again, if the chair is composited in, well done. The colors are warm and inviting, and it looks like a nice place to have a seat for a moment. Chances are there's something interesting to look at on our side of the room. The only ideas are there's a couple of tiny distractions. There's a dark spot in the top, and there's a little bit of the molding in the bottom right corner that could easily be cropped out. And then watch your focus. The chair is a little bit blurry.
The artist was Patricia Leviton. That completes Creative Anything Goes. Next up is Black and White. And our first image is titled Sea, Sand, Shadows.
There we go. There are lots of moving parts in this excellent composition. One could wish for some separation between the foreground person and the rock, but in an instant, everything would likely change. I like the contrasting lines, the white sea foam in the foreground and the dark lines of the waves at the top. Capturing the position of all the players at this instant presents the viewer with a collection of stories, the person at the tide pool about to step, the person maybe making a photo. We can only imagine the phone in their hand, the couple staring out to sea, and finally a couple on the right, one carrying a child. The subject lent itself to a black and white presentation. Well done.
The artist is Ed Sylvester. This is titled Across the Dunes.
A foggy morning, I'm guessing, on the Oregon coast. There's a lot to enjoy here. The texture of the foreground dunes and the silhouetted person, the lighthouse, the fog in the distance and overhead. I like the composition, which ties all the elements together, foreground, middle, and background. The slight vignette helps keep our eyes in the frame, exploring the details. The image has a very strong grain, which reminds me of push-processed Tri-X film. I don't know if this was an effect or as a result of the exposure in the camera. If it's an effect, there might be other presentations to be explored using a lesser amount of grain. Well done.
The artist is Rachel Rosenthal. Excuse me. The next image is titled Slim.
What a marvelous portrait. This could have been entered in the people category too, or maybe not. The nature of the subject lent itself towards black and white as the expression and the eyes cut through without any distracting colors to modify the impression on the viewer. The circular vignette removes us from time and place cues from the background, a very graphic image as well. Good work.
The artist was Mike Shea. This titled Between a Rock and a Rock.
I like the choices presented in this image based on the title. The subject is set in the scene. The choice to blur the water creates a pattern that helps to keep the focus on the subject. The vignette further keeps the eye in the frame. Nicely done.
The artist is Ellen Davis. This is entitled Mama Grizzly, Alaska.
What a marvelous capture. The interesting backlighting and good catch light in the eyes. Perfect depth of field that pulls the mama away from the background. I love the edge lit hair that you can see and the disinterested expression. The impact may be improved with a slight crop to remove some of the negative space on the left. Let's go to the next image. So there's a suggestion. Nice image though.
The artist is Ingrid Lockhart. This is Stone Butterfly.
And now for something different. The photographer and the model work together to create an imaginative narrative. The stones create the butterfly's wings and create some dramatic leading lines. The model's hair looks like it was arranged, and the result breaks up the rock by her head and adds interest. There are a number of bright rocks that could have been distracting, but are handled well. Some of the edges have been darkened to keep the viewer's eyes in the frame. Nicely done.
The artist is Douglas Hooper. This is Overcoming Vertigo or Seeking New Heights.
This image is mine. It's the stairs leading to the fire lookout on the top of the Sierra Buttes. I hope you like it.
Thank you. All right, so the artist was Peter Mason, and that concludes black and white. Our final category is color, other. And the first image is Black Cat, Red Wall.
And this is a great way to go into the color category. I like the bright, vivid reds and oranges that are framing the old wooden door. And I like how the angles are all kind of off. Really give it a feeling of age and timelessness. And I like the way the dark rocks and the street anchor the bottom third really nicely. Have some interesting details like the little drain hole under the door, kind of add some interest towards leaning towards the right side. And then of course the cat painted on the left side. And then the traces of greenery along the top finish it off really nicely. Wouldn't change a thing, very nice.
Artist is Patricia Levitin. This next image is North Complex Smoke over Grass Valley.
Yeah, I really like this one too, of one of our the smoke images. It's an interesting study of color and lines and angles and darks and lights. All the lines point you to the bright spot in the upper corner with a nice dark silhouette to grab my eyes, and then follow the lines back to the poles, taking me back up. And the side lighting on the poles is really nice too, lit by the blue sky that was behind the photographer. It was such a unique and interesting light. I saw the same light at my house, lighting all the trees from underneath, and had never seen anything like it before. This is a really nice image of a very everyday scene. Wouldn't change a thing.
The artist is Douglas Hooper. This is I Don't Give a Fig.
A nice still life of a delicious snack. The complementary colors as they occur in nature. The composition is well balanced, and the subject has room to breathe around the edges. The out of focus negative space on the right doesn't compete. And the subtle out of focus and slightly dark vignetting keeps my eyes inside the image. And the gray wood looks almost monochromatic, making the actual colors really pop. Very nice.
Artist is Ellen Davis. This is Petroglyphs and Sun Under Stormy Skies.
Yeah, this is a nice wide angle vista that really gives a sense of place, and the slightly curved horizon enhances that vista even more. And the desert mountains in the back being enveloped by the storm add even more depth and distance. The close-up view fills the bottom 2/3 of the image to really allow you to see everything in the foreground clearly. And the desert springtime color adds a feeling of life into what would normally be a desolate place. Image has well-balanced light and dark shapes that are compositionally well placed, leading my eye in and then off towards the horizon. The very interesting and well-defined Indian art adds a feeling of age and history and mystery.
Artist is Tom Quinn. This is Jelly in Jade.
It's a cool image of the jellyfish that looks like it may be from above the surface. And the purple and blue stand out against the green water, and the bright green grass blades frame the lower corner well. The square crop is good for this image too, and I'm happy that the trailing tentacles are within the crop. Possible work might be it's a piece of grass that's kind of right in front of the jelly, might be possibly cloned out if you're really good in Photoshop. And then maybe there's right at the kind of the top left corner, there's some bright little bubble cluster that's kind of hanging off the edge that could be cloned out easily. All right, shot from a kayak, we see in the notes. Very nice.
Right. The artist is Eleni Prusa. Next up is Look Mom, No Wires, first drone photo.
Yeah, how many of us have tried to photograph this church steeple and cursed all the overhead wires? Probably all of us. And now technology offers a solution. Nice fall colors framing the steeple, and the cross is just in the right spot not to be in competition with the tree branches. And good use of the third lines for the steeple and the distant horizon helps keep the balance feeling well. One possible edit might be to bring down the brightness of the church in the lower right corner, but otherwise great use of tech for a new view of Nevada City.
The artist is David Wong. This is Fall Color, Carson Pass.
This is a nice view of this iconic scene. The fall colors framed by the browns of the willows in the foreground and the mountains in the back. And the weight of the house and the cabin and the boulder in the front kind of hold down the lower half compositionally. And it's well thought out, placing those kind of weighted spots there. And I like that the mountain's not cut off and the scene is not dominated by too much clear sky, and that the contrast and color saturation looks natural. The brighter, more turquoise sky up on the left corner, possibly the result of a polarizer only filtering half of the image. And that's kind of really hard to fix in post-processing, so I would leave it just as it is. You may already know this, but when you use a polarizer, you need to think about where the sun is. They work best when you're looking 90 degrees away from the sun. So if you stretch your arms out pointing toward and away from the sun, it'll work best right in the middle. And you can also see the difference when you spin it while framing your shot, and to pay attention how the light in the sky is being affected and whether or not you're gonna be able to edit that in post-processing before you decide to use it.
All right. The artist is Craig Rorson. This is Aspens at Silver Lake.
It hasn't come up for me yet.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, the classic look of the aspen trees from below. I love these shots because I know how fun it is to lay down on the layer of warm, fragrant, dry aspen leaves and compose these kind of shots. It really immerses you in the moment. And the blue sky behind the golden leaves is so dramatic against the light that you've got working there. Compositionally, I might like to see a little more of the tree trunks leading my eyes up into the sky. One way is to try a wider angle lens that lets you fit more of the trunks into the shot. That works. And then don't forget the experience of laying down on the forest floor and getting zen with it.
All right, the artist is John Sievert. And our last image this evening is titled Using Janice's Camera Blur Process.
This looks a little softer in this presentation than on my screen originally. And this is where you shoot at a lower shutter speed, maybe a second or less, and move the camera up or down during the exposure. It takes practice with the shutter speed adjustment and a smooth technique, and it's really fun to work on with aspen tree trunks. And this is a good example of how nice that can turn out. What I like about this image is that along with the dreamy feel of the motion, there's just enough detail still in the tree bark to add visual interest. And I tried cropping off some of the bright spots at the top as distractions, but I decided that they added a needed balance for the bright along the bottom. And looking at it abstractively, it looks just fine as it is. Well done.
All right, perfect timing. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for submitting your images. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to Dave for serving as judges tonight.
Did the last
Well
image.
done. Huh?
We did the last image.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Shame on me. The artist was Ann Wessling.
Yay.
So my bad. All right. Sorry, Ann. And I will stop sharing.
Oh, I did it
Oh,
already.
good. Okay.
I figured you were so busy you
Correct.
forgot.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for everybody hanging in there. There's 45 of us still here. It was a great show tonight. And really nice. Thank you to the critiquers, Dave and Peter. You both did a super job. Really nice. I know how hard it is, and you did a super job. Thank you so much. Hopefully we all get something from that. So just so a plug, I'm going to be sending out the schedule for Saturday. Hope to see most of you there.
Thanks, everybody. It was a great night.
Yeah. Happy trails to all. Thanks, Ann.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Rachel. Thank you so much. You did a wonderful job as
too.
usual. I won't be able to follow in those steps.
Thank you, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel, I just want to ask you a question
Sure.
if you
Yeah,
have a
I'll
minute.
stay on.
So that night shot that you did on the Oregon coast with
Yes.
the Milky Way, how did you, what was the conditions that made that rock look
You know,
like
that's
quartz?
really a good question. And Peter pointed that out. I have no idea. I used Rick's, the LumiCube, and rotated it around to light up the face of the rock. And it came out white, and I must have done 50 shots. They were almost all white. And I went in Photoshop to make sure all the texture in the rock is there. It's like, did I blow it out? Was my first impression. The rock was not white.
Mm-hmm.
So then I brought down the face of the rock. All the texture is there. And I don't know whether I just happened to hit it with more light as I swiping up and down is the only explanation I can, but it wasn't overexposed. So that threw me as well. I don't know why it was white.
And then the light that was behind
It's
the rock,
because
what was
that's
that?
the town. I'm shooting directly south along the coast. And that's the light of whatever that next town is south of that beach.
I'm so glad that you explained all this because it looked like a matte painting to me.
Oh, really?
And I thought, what? What's going on here?
Because I thought about that. I thought about cutting out. I'd have to do layers in Photoshop and darken down that light behind the rock.
No, it's very pretty.
To bring the, anyway.
I actually like the color palette, complementary color palettes with the rock and with the Milky Way.
Oh, you did? See, I wasn't
Yeah,
happy with it.
even if it wasn't what you intended, I thought they were very complementary. So I think it made for a nice artistic shot, even if it wasn't exactly, you know, what you wanted. I thought it came out well. It looked very nice.
Well,
I thought that too, and it was a nice contrast to the other Milky Way exposures, which were, the other two were very different as well.
They were.
So it's nice to see what you can do with a Milky Way. You just don't have to do it one way.
That's true. I guess I'm judging it against the standard, you know, look. And I'm like, I did it like 10 different ways, and they all came out in various shades of that particular look. I thought, well, I'll just let it go. But thank you.
And since we're all piling on Rachel's picture, I thought all of Peter's comments were really good. I might have gone slightly darker on the rock in line with Peter's comments.
All right.
My reaction to the picture was that in Photoshop in levels, it wasn't touching the left border. You needed a little more bottom end on it.
It wasn't on the,
That's my impression. I haven't looked at it in Photoshop.
Well, I'll go back and look. So I try to make sure it's touching both ends and not going beyond, but I'll double check that. Okay.
It looked slightly flat and it looked like it was missing its bottom end to me. That's
Missing
just
some deep, some contrast. Okay. No,
yeah,
I
just an
will.
impression.
All right. Thank you.
But it's a beautiful image. Well,
Yeah,
worth
yeah,
putting
yeah.
together.
Thank you. Well, I knew when I took it, I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be